Hi, Dr. Landrito. Good evening. The Dr. Landrito.
Yes, the one and only.
The one and only.
Francis,
Idol.
missing you also. Don't say that.
And of course, my Dr. Agbayani.
Of course.
Ang boss, bro. Brother.
Hi.
Yung action natin dito.
Napaka-inclusive ng ating weekly huddle. So lahat talaga kasama.
Okay. Is
Okay,
my
start
audio
na tayo.
Sige.
Wait, one more post lang sa Facebook habang meron pa rin tayong Facebook. Good evening po sa lahat habang nag-aayos tayo ng rito. Good evening po and welcome to another weekly huddle of the concerned doctors and citizens of the Philippines. Today is question and answer day. So please feel free to start posting your questions. At ito po isasagutin ng ating mga doktor. Kasama natin sa gabing ito si Dr. Iggy Agbayani at si Dr. Allan Landrito. Kasama din po natin si Dr. Love na si Francis Abraham.
Good evening po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to CDC PH's Weekly Huddle. November 18, 2021, 7 to 9 p.m. Supposedly 7 to 9, ha?
Oo, in theory.
November 13, Francis. You said 18.
I'm sorry, November 13. Yung salamin ko, hindi ko naiangat.
Ayun, importante kasi magsalamin yung pag matanda ka, tulad namin ni Francis.
Hindi. Bata pa ako. Wala nga akong buhok o bata pa.
Okay, let's pwede na, Ellie, let's start recording, please.
Okay. I'm recording and I'm going live as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, good evening po. Good evening to everyone and welcome to another Concerned Doctors and Citizens of the Philippines Weekly Huddle. This is the Weekly Huddle for November 13, 2021. And I'd like to greet my co-hosts as usual this evening, si Ellie Abela. Good evening, Ellie.
Good evening, Mars. Good evening, everybody.
At si Senyor Francis Abraham. Good evening, Sir Francis.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to the Weekly Huddle, straight from Puerto Galera, where it's peaceful and people don't wear masks and face shields.
Naku, bakit mo kinalat? Baka mamaya sugurin kayo ng IATF dyan.
Okay, di naman siguro.
Beach dyan di ba? Open air. So dapat hindi na kailangan mag-mask.
Oo
Lalo
nga,
na nasa labas kayo.
Oo, walang COVID dito. Walang makukulit dito.
Okay, good evening po to everyone. Good evening, Cesar. Good evening, Gil. Hill pala, si Hill Bates pala ito. As in Bill Gates na binaligtad. Good evening, Senya, Neneng from Greenbelt. Good evening, Giancarlo Iway. Coach DK, good evening. Ivy Galang. Shalom, everyone from Pastor Edison of Trust in the Lord Living Church, Las Piñas. Excuse me. Good evening from Iloilo, kay Brenda. Jimmy Torres, iPhone sa Las Vegas. Good evening, silang Cavite, si Len. Hi, Len. Jem, good evening. RC James Gonzalez, magandang gabi po. Sabi ni Larry Salazar, good evening to our favorite human beings in the whole wide world. Good evening kay Magdalena Subong. Good evening, nakaka-miss kayo and this Saturday night huddle. Thanks from Iloilo City. Good evening everyone from Valenzuela, Glenda. Brian is coming to us and says good evening from Victoria, Australia. Milagros says good evening, thanking you for your endeavor. Would like to something with the group. I'm an environmental planner and agriculturist. Hope can contribute a little thing for this cause. Absolutely. And welcome, Milagros. Tom Molina says hello from Santa Rosa. Good evening to everyone else. Casa Milan Fairview, Cagayan de Oro, Ang dami, dami. So, good evening po once again and welcome. Tonight is a question and answer huddle dahil napaka-busy po ng inyong CDCPH. Naghahanda po kami para sa ating COVID Summit November 25th. Kasama po natin sina Dr. Avila. We'll be talking about that a little later on. In the meantime, let's kick off with our usual opening slides, Ellie.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
Mhm. Our CDCPH 5-point agenda, Francis.
Ivermectin should be made part of the Philippine COVID treatment plan.
Ellie.
No to mandatory vaccines. Filipinos have a constitutional right to choose which medications to put into their bodies and which to reject.
No to unconstitutional, discriminatory, and indiscriminate lockdowns. Yes to the focused protection plan.
Yes to the promotion of basic immunity boosters such as vitamin C and D and zinc, sunshine, exercise, and a proper diet.
No to unscientific protocols such as face shields.
Pinag-aawayan pa yung face shield ngayon. Disclaimer number 1, CDCPH is not anti-vaccine po. We are only against the mandatory COVID-19 vaccines. Hashtag pro-choice ang CDCPH. Francis?
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the concerned doctors and citizens of the Philippines. For a proper medical diagnosis of your condition, please consult your doctor.
For a proper medical diagnosis of your air conditioning, consult Dr. Love. Okay, nandito na ba si Dr. Homer?
Let me check, Mars.
Sige. Okay, Francis,
Yes.
ano ba nang pag-usapan natin? Yung
November 25,
25 na ang ating summit.
COVID Summit.
Sige, pag-usapan muna natin to habang hinihintay natin si Doc Homer and then we can come
He's
back
here
to
na po.
Okay.
He's here
yan.
na, Mars.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
good
here.
evening po, Doc Homer, our CDCPH President. Meron po tayong malaking pasabog na balita at ito ay tungkol sa ating COVID Summit sa November 25. Pakikwento nga po, Doc Homer, kung ano mangyayari sa ating COVID Summit.
Hi everyone. Good news is on the 25th, no, which is Thursday, no, of November, no, we will have our very first COVID summit at Vivere Hotel. Ito po ay nasa Alabang po. So we have invited speakers like Doctors Peter McCullough. We also have invited Dr. Sabine Hassan. If you remember her talk about COVID and microbiome, we also will be having, of course, our very own Dr. Marivic, who will actually come to Manila live for our event on the 25th of November. So this will be a face-to-face and a virtual event. So for those who are not able to come to our live event on the 25th, you are also invited to join us live on live streaming. We'll be live streaming this event on our Zoom account. So the live event will be from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. The cost will be 2,000 pesos, which also includes, of course, your lunch and your merienda, no? And of course, Miss Ellie will also entertain you if you get bored. Just joking, Ellie.
Kakanta si Ellie.
Nasyak ako.
Habang si
Joke lang
Francis
yun,
naman
joke lang
sasayaw.
yun.
Doc, we've invited also Dr. Pierre Corey and if I'm not mistaken, si Ryan Cole din ba?
Yes, so we're just waiting for their kumbaga, confirmation. But they initially said yes na. So but we're still awaiting final confirmation. So that's why I don't want to say ano pas bigla hindi darating ahiya naman. But we have already invited them, already said that technically yes, but of course we have to make sure that. And then also we will have Dr. Tess Laurie also. I think will
Wow.
also be gracing our event.
Star-studded.
Yeah, so
At
so yes.
ang magbibigay ng keynote, ang magbibigay ng keynote sa ating summit ay sino po, Doc?
Ang magbibigay ng ating keynote natural ay Dr. Allan Landrito. So, Dr. Allan, bawal ka mag-absent, ha? Pag nag-absent ka, ang magbibigay ng keynote si Dr. Lab.
Doc Alan, did you hear that?
Yeah, I'm
Paki-unmute lang si
surprised. I
Doc.
didn't know.
Oh, now you know. Kaya nga, you have to attend this huddle because you're going to be
Help me out to discuss what I will have to say.
Doc Alan,
so you have to
those-
talk on our...
Yeah. The choice was between you and me. And the choice is unanimous for you.
But Doc, I think it's very clear to you na hindi malaking hindi mahirap na desisyon na gawin kang keynote speaker. Dahil naman po, of course, we have to acknowledge your very great contribution to the battle against COVID-19 in the Philippines. Tuloy-tuloy po ang laban. So I'm sure everyone is looking forward to that. Linawin lang po natin, amongst the doctors who will be live with us on the 25th, for the CDCPH COVID Summit at the Vivere Hotel and Resorts will be Dr. Homer Lim, of course, Dr. Iggy Agbayani, Dr. Marivic Villa, Dr. Allan Landrito, si Dr. Francis Abraham Love.
Hindi
Tapos,
ako doktor.
sino ba ba?
Makakala nila doktor ako. Hindi ako doktor.
Okay. Si Quack Dr. Ellie Abela at si Quack Dr. Mari Caimo will also be there. But joining us via live stream po, hopefully, no, we already have yeses from, tentative yeses from a few doctors na. Later na lang po natin ulit babanggitin ang kanilang mga pangalan. Pero we have major names po who will be gracing us with their presence on November 25th. So please mark the date. You can already sign up, Ellie. Pakita nga natin yung, ayan. Okay, thank you. Bilis talaga ni Ellie. This po is the sign up form on Google Docs. Where will we post this, Doc? Ano
It's
po
already
naman?
posted on Facebook and I already posted this on Facebook. Meron na rin yan
Sa Concerned DX and CX, tama?
Oh, meron na po.
Okay.
I was
So-
supposed to say Instagram, tapos na-remember ko, ay, dinelete pala ng Instagram yung platform.
Talaga?
Yeah, it was deleted. So,
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Concerned DX and CX of the Philippines Facebook website. Just look for this Google Docs form to register. The sooner you register, the better. At wag po ninyong gagamitin yung account ni Ellie, no, para mag-sign in. Hindi kayo papayagan ng Google. Okay? Pero nandiyan na po, nakapost na po sa ating Facebook page, the Concerned Doctors and Citizens of the Philippines, otherwise known on Facebook as Concerned DX and CX of the Philippines. Okay, meron pa ba tayong nakalimutan, Doc Homer?
Yeah, another would be our dinner symposium, no? So the night before, on the 24th of November, that's the Wednesday night, we will have a dinner symposium again with our guest of honor and speaker, Dr. Marivic Villa. So this will be a fundraising event for our cause for CDCPH. So this will also be at Vivere Hotel. So we have prepared a beautiful program on what we have accomplished for the last 20 months here with CDCPH.
Para po doon sa mga hindi masyado nakakilala sa pangalan, Vivere Hotels, ito po ay nasa Philinvest, Philinvest Corporate City ba? Sa Muntinlupa.
Yeah, it's in Alabang. Yeah, Muntinlupa, Alabang. Very close to the mall, no? To the big mall there.
So it's Vivere, Vivere, and they have been very kind to us, very generous, and very cooperative with CDCPH in helping us put this together. And we're looking forward to a wonderful celebration for the symposium and dinner, and of course for the summit itself. Talagang exciting ito, no, Ellie?
Super, I can't wait. Sorry, nakamute ako. Super duper. And busy for us.
Okay, sabi ni naku, nawala. Somebody was saying, good evening, and finally down, si Dr. Allan Landrito nandito. Ayun. Sabi ni LC, good evening, finally, the one and only Dr. Allan Landrito. God bless CDCPH. And speaking of, hayaan na natin magsalita si Doc Iggy na I'm sure everyone is missing right about now. Good evening, Doc Iggy.
Hi, Good evening, Mari. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity once again. No. So it's another one of those CDC PH huddle. I don't think you'll ever find anything like the CDC PH huddle anywhere. That's why it's always exciting to be here. So I think one of the main reasons we are holding this is because we want to give more opportunities for our friends, our followers to participate, ask questions, and of course, give their comments. That's why napaka-importante nandito na si Allan Landrito because as everyone knows, he has the most experience. In my own practice, the numbers are going down, but it seems like there are some different symptoms coming out post-COVID, and there are issues about vaccinations that we should talk about. Certainly, that they are wanting to inject more children is a major issue. The election is getting to warm up, and they are now mentioning their positions in terms of the COVID issues, particularly mandatory vaccination. But I have more questions on these politicians. Personally, I've been following the big pharmas. What are they doing? Who are they influencing? I'm also checking out the media, if they are being fair, if they are targeting people. This is that period, magpapasko na, so maraming pinag-uusapan everywhere. Not just politics, of course, but COVID-19 is still there. And I think CDC page continues to be more relevant with those things happening. And we will do our best to provide as much information as possible. And thank God nandito si Alan because I certainly cannot answer the many difficult questions that we are encountering with in terms of managing COVID, preventing COVID, vaccination for COVID, etc. That's
Okay.
all.
Sige, Doc. Doc Homer, if you're still there, meron pong tanong na kailangan natin sagutin. Palagay ko. Tanong ni Alvin at ni Tina Jose Besin, makakapasok ba sa summit kahit hindi bakunado? Do you need to be vaxxed to attend? Doc Homer? Ako, baka na wala si Doc Homer.
We can answer that.
Yeah.
Oh, sige, Doc.
Answer
Ayan,
Doc,
si Doc.
no? Kasi
Yeah.
according to IATF guidelines talaga is ano lang daw, vaccinated lang daw. So the hotel has to follow IATF guidelines.
Okay. So I was recently vaccinated po for ano nga ba? Tetanus. So pwede na po ba 'yon?
Hindi naman nila tinanong kung anong klaseng vaccination, di ba?
Pwede yun, Mari, pag may kalawang yung karayong.
Hindi naman nila
Okay.
vaccine, di ba? So pwede siguro, technically, you can say yes, di ba?
Mari, I forgot something to mention.
Yes, Doc. Go ahead, please.
That this huddle, when they ask questions about their illness or how they will use some medicine, etc., this does not constitute a doctor-patient consultation. This is not a formal consultation. Kasi hindi natin na-mention kanina, people might construe this as a consultation. But the advice that we will give here, of course, is not for just the individual, but of course, it's like a general answer. So do not construe it as a patient-doctor formal consult.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. Doc Alan, good evening po.
Yes, good evening, Mark.
Sige po,
Good evening to everyone.
Bati po muna kayo sa inyong mga sang damakmak na fans.
Yeah, it's nice to be here in our huddle, and there are so many things that are coming up, especially with the use of Ivermectin, and maybe we will be able to unfold a lot of them, and depending on your questions. No, one thing I would just want to say, kasi a lot of people are asking about the vaccine. No? So sabi ko, it is in case we have found, in case you decided to get vaccinated, we have found ivermectin really helps. Take 2 capsules daily for 5 days before and 2 capsules daily 5 days after after the vaccination date. And we are saying there won't be any adverse reaction. And it goes with the mechanisms of action of ivermectin that it attaches to the spike protein. So it's really working good in that aspect. Although still, I don't recommend getting vaccinated. Although I also don't hold people from if they want to be vaccinated.
All right.
There are many other things.
Doc. Before we go anywhere else, let us please recognize the presence of Dr. Romy Quijano and Dr. Jade Del Mundo. Good evening po, Doc Romy.
Magandang gabi rin. Sana tahimik lang ako makikinig dito para sa updates. Binisto mo kagad ako iniiwan. Baka mamaya mahalata ng aking gwardiya, bigla akong tawagin.
Okay, sige Doc. We will allow you to monitor na lang silently. Pero Doc, kung sakali anytime you wanna come in, please feel free. Raise lang your hand, Doc. Okay, Doc Jade, good evening.
Good evening. Ang impression ko dun sa spacing, yung distancing sa loob ng hotel, sa symposium area, is that kaya nga binawasan yung yung number to 50% ba yun? Dahil pwede yung mga unvaccinated. I think
Kasi medyo hindi malinaw yung kanilang pagkasulat.
oo, kasi kung lahat vaccinated, walang social distancing, pwedeng 100% full. Pero ginawa nilang 50% capacity. So ibig sabihin nun, pwede yung mga unvaccinated pumasok. Di ba? And another thing that I'd like to suggest is can we apply for a CME? Kasi yun ang concern ng mga other doctors who want to attend the
Ano po yung CME?
continuing medical education, yung points. Although hindi na kailangan yon for PhilHealth, for PRC, pero it's still useful for other purposes.
Is this in reference po to the summit, Doc?
To the summit, oo.
Doc Homer, you want to respond?
But I think kulang na ng time kasi kailangan yan may lead time May lead time for application.
We can apply po after po the event. We can still do that po.
Anyway, we have 2 board examiners in the league.
Okay.
That's only my question and my concern. Yung tungkol dun sa capacity ng room, kaya nila ginawang 50% dahil baka pwede yung unvaccinated pumasok. Kasi kung
ano bang numbers, Doc, so far sa mga bakunado? Is it around, it used to be 20 million, it was more than a month and a half ago na yata. Ngayon, ilan na ba? Does anybody know?
At saka yung may mga antibody
Test results.
So that should be honored.
Oo nga. Kung ang problema natin, Doc, di ba sunod-sunuran tayo sa ang FDA natin sunod-sunuran sa US. And so if the US is not recognizing natural immunity, although it is recognized in Israel and parts of Europe, it is not recognized still in the US, which is really strange, no? Because it's like ignoring the fact that people are naturally better off with natural immunity than vaccination immunity. Anyway, let's kick off now with the questions. Francis, are you game? Are you ready?
Game. It's a game. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sige, hanapin lang po natin. Ito, ang tanong ni Giancarlo Iway. Paano po kung nakaranas ng side effects ng vaccines? Medyo na-address na ni Doc Allan ito. Doc Allan, can you continue to answer this question po. Paano po kung nakaranas ng side effects ng vaccines?
Yeah, we know that the vaccines are it's either an mRNA, adenovirus, or attenuated SARS-CoV-2 virus. No? So, ang binom nitong COVID-19 is the spike protein. Kung mRNA, it will produce the spike protein. Adenovirus will also produce the spike protein. And the same thing with SARS-CoV-2 attenuated virus vaccines. No? So, we have found out ivermectin does its trick. It will release up the adverse reaction. No? So, pero mas maganda mag-prophylax. I've been telling na-synthesize na rin namin itong out of several experiences. So I'm recommending 2 capsules daily before getting vaccinated and 2 capsules daily after. Now, if people had already the vaccine, they got the adverse reaction, hindi nila alam na pwede pala and then still they can treat it just like a COVID patient. And it will work. Of course, you have to look into the D-dimer if there is hypercoagulation there. You give aspirin, or you can even give intravenous EDTA or heparin, depending on the setup. No, pero if there are adverse reactions, ivermectin is again the main. I think the first line of the treatment that we can give.
Doc Allan,
and for COVID patients, I've been using my protocol. You reach for the high enough dose right away. So I may start with 5 capsules. And 7 capsules, depending on the condition, and then I will even increase it until I get the high enough dose for that particular patient. And that is, we will know that it's high enough if the patient is already showing significant improvement, and we keep him on that patient on 3 days from that dose. Then we can taper it down. Magre-respond naman eh. Even the same thing we do with COVID, ganun din sa adverse reactions.
Yeah, I was asking kung meron po kayong page sa inyong website that will cover vaccinated.
Yeah, it's in my website actually. My protocol, I also mentioned there for just a line for prophylaxis on vaccine. I haven't discussed about adverse reaction there. Although yung COVID protocol ko, early treatment protocol, late treatment protocol, tsaka prophylaxis, it's there. It's www.drlandrito.com.
drlandrito.com. Okay, deltaromeo.landrito.com. All right, and I just checked.
Marie, if I may,
yes,
then
yes, Doc.
Certainly may mga reactions na simple allergies, parang yung mga asthmatic attacks. Of course, the old protocols we still follow. We can give antihistamines. We can give epinephrine for mga more severe cases. Of course, may a local reaction sa site of the injection. You can ice it, and sometimes you can even take pain relievers, pero simple icing of the site should be okay. So, but I think most of these sites they give you a piece of paper to tell you where to report kung sakali, no? But you should be proactive rin just in case na kunyari hindi rin tumawag. It is actually part of some protocols that they will follow up on you. So you must report it if kasi siyempre we don't get the correct data if we don't report these adverse events. So that's an important aspect of the vaccine side effects.
Okay, and speaking of vaccines, I'm on the DOH website. Ang nakalagay dito, first dose, 37,673,049. Second dose and single dose, 31,355,064. So yung fully vaccinated na as per the DOH website, 31 million. And mga nakapag first dose na, 37 million. 37,673,000. Total doses administered, 69,028,000 out of a total of 110 million Filipinos. Sa palagay nyo ba, Doc Iggy, this is an accurate figure?
Yeah, I think they want to report their accomplishments, but the thing is, of course, we also know that those who had their injections in February, may mga secret group ng February, probably nag-wear out na rin yun. I'm not saying that everyone will wear out, but there's a high percentage of cases of vaccines that will probably not work after 6 months. Yun ang kanila, ano. That's why there is a booster dose. So again, although you may have the data, it's 30 plus million, problema 6 months lang yata yung kanyang, unless ma-third dose ka o ma-booster dose ka na tinatawag, which I actually don't like to use the word booster dose because it appears that it doesn't work for the newer variants. So that's not a booster. You need a new vaccine. So that's one aspect of counting. No? May I also note that I had a patient recently, and this is a good story to mention, who said that he had symptoms. He had cough, he had slight fever. So what he did was he went to a testing site and had himself tested. Pumila pa raw. So I'm a little concerned that sometimes in their enthusiasm to vaccinate, they don't tell the people na siyempre kung may symptoms ka, you're contagious. You shouldn't go to a testing site. So yun lang, yun ang napapansin. Yun ang napapansin ko ngayon na parang too enthusiastic na mag-test, too enthusiastic mag-vaccinate. They have to screen kasi doon maging crowds eh. People who are going to be vaccinated, potentially may sakit po.
Okay. Merong hinahanap dito kasi na napanood ko na video that I'm really suggesting everyone watch. I can't post it dito sa Facebook dahil I'm sure ibababa ka agad. But it is the Senate hearing, excuse me, of Senator Ron Johnson sa mga nag-testify sa kanya regarding adverse events. But anyway, kapag nahanap ko, I'll post it. But Francis, meron kang babasahin? Francis?
Francis, let me check where he is.
Sige. Ako na muna.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Sige.
Kasi
Okay.
sumubo po ako. Sumubo lang po. I'm guilty.
Okay. Nakita mo yung dapat mong basahin o hindi mo nakita?
Ano dapat kong basahin?
Okay, sige. Ako
Hindi
na.
nakita.
May nagtatanong, sabi, good evening po. I have a friend from Manila coming up here but afraid to see me physically because I might infect because I'm not vaccinated or may infect me because of viral shedding. Sino bang gusto sumagot nito? Doc Iggy, Doc Allan? I have a friend from Manila coming up here but afraid to see me physically because I might infect because I'm not vaccinated or he may infect me because of viral shedding. Paano bang dapat gawin dyan, Doc Iggy, Doc Allan?
Alan first. Alan, would you like to answer that?
Okay, the way I understand the question, yung friend niya darating vaccinated and the person is not vaccinated, herself is not vaccinated, right? Tama
Yes,
ba?
that's why I understand
So,
also.
if you're taking Ivermectin regularly, that's 1 capsule every 3 to 4 days, twice a week. No? You don't have to worry. Pero if I am in your situation and you have a friend coming who is vaccinated, I'll take 2 capsules daily while I'm with the person. Don't be afraid. And now we are realizing we don't have to be afraid of taking ivermectin daily. I've seen one doctor she's been taking it daily for 9 months already because she's seeing lots of personally COVID patients. She's not even she's becoming stronger. She has gallbladder carcinoma, high risk of that, no? And she's becoming stronger and stronger. She even missed her chemotherapy. Nag-remission na siya. And yeah, I can go further. Pero with the question, I'll just take ivermectin daily, 2 capsules a day. She will be
Doc,
safe.
yung 2 capsules a day is for what weight?
Me, I'm 64 kilos. No? That's 50 to 80 kilograms.
Okay.
If you're beyond 80, maybe 3 capsules daily. It won't be any problem. There won't be any problem. And I don't think she will catch the shedded virus.
And when you say 3 capsules a day, let's say for the person over 80 kilos, do you stagger? Do you prefer to stagger the dose?
No,
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
I always
Sorry, Doc Chappy.
give it in a single shot, no? Mas mabuti.
Wow, okay.
Just single intake.
Okay. Doc Iggy,
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
to...
Actually, the question is, kung political candidate ako, sabihin ko sa misleading yung question. Because actually, you shouldn't use your vaccination status as a measure of whether you should allow your visitor or protect your visitor or what. I'm still in the. I still use the old parameters that should have been used by our government. Symptomatic ba? Asymptomatic ba? Elderly ba? Meron bang comorbidities? Kasi regardless of vaccinated or hindi vaccinated, as we all know, it can still be transmissible. However, if you are very young or really healthy or you've already had COVID, I don't think you should be too worried kasi mukhang lalabas na you should be able to survive COVID-19 quite easily. As we all know, the death numbers are smaller nowadays, even though there are many cases. So it appears that the tinatawag natin infection fatality rate is going down. And why is this? Because I think we are getting to somewhere near herd immunity, meaning we already have that subgroup of people who probably have cross immunity. Nagkaroon na siguro sila ng parang coronavirus before. Of course, it would have been probably more than 5 million people or Filipinos who already had the COVID and probably didn't even know they had it and have T cells or antibodies or are really strong. So going back to the question, ask the next question, hindi vaccine or vaccinated. Don't use that to parang prevent people from going to a restaurant. Vaccinated ka ba? Hindi vaccinated. Kasi nga, they still tell us to wear masks. They still want us to social distance. I would really allow children because children are more resilient. I would still be very protective of the elderly because they are more vulnerable. I would just be very protective of the diabetics, pre-diabetics, recently obese. Yung mga kung bata pa, medyo mataba na, I'm not too concerned about those. I'm more concerned about yung dati payat, biglang tumaba. Things like this dapat sana na papag-usapan ng gobyerno natin kasi masyado tayo nag-emphasize on vaccination.
Doc, matanong ko lang, yung cross immunity, ano po yun, Doc?
Kasi di ba maraming ang virus. So if you get infected, say, pneumococcal o yung mga flu vaccine, you get an immunity from that or flu, it doesn't protect you from coronaviruses. But there are many coronaviruses. Yung balita nila na this is a novel coronavirus, it's not true. Matagal na tayo may coronavirus. And yung mga ibang yun, nagko-cross reaction. So meaning meron protection kahit pa paano kung nagkaroon na tayo ng coronavirus, not necessarily COVID-19.
Okay, may pahabol ka, Francis?
Wala na po. Nasagot na po ni Doc TV.
Okay, tanong ni, saan ba yun? Tanong ni Larny Domingo kung ila-live stream po yung summit. Yes po, live stream po. We'll have a face-to-face dun nga po sa Bibere ballroom, and we will also have the live streaming. So no matter where you are po in the world, you can participate. Basta medyo, even if it's not such a decent hour for you, wherever you are in the world, you can still participate. Paminsan-minsan lang naman tayo nag-COVID summit, no? So tanong ni Annette, how to test for SARS-CoV-2 antibodies? What's the correct test to get?
In my readings, I really suggest yung antibody test na more specific, yung CPAS that's available in some because it is more specific. That was approved by the FDA last year in November. Ang reason kasi doon, ang tinetest niya specifically to COVID-19. Samantalang yung antibody test measures just an elevation of antibodies, may not necessarily be specific to COVID-19. So yun ang beauty ng CPAS test, more specific. As you know, it is not a recommended test by our DOH and US NIH And I'm a little concerned with that kasi parang ayaw yata nila pakita na marami na siguro may
Immunity.
may immunity. And after the vaccination, if you test, baka ma-realize mo na wala ka pa ring immunity. So I think that's why. But of course, it's not a cheap test. So ayoko rin siya parang gawing mandatory. No? Practically, to be honest, I don't like anything mandatory except to isolate the sick. But it's a good test. And it's more specific. Ang claim ng test is 100% sensitive and 100% specific. Although, of course, that's their claim. But I know it's a pretty high test. And when you do it, you don't do it while you're sick. You do it a few weeks. Siguro the best time to do it is about 2 weeks after your symptom. You will probably get a positive test already that you already have antibodies with that. In fact, some patients have more positivity rates. It's a quantitative number. No? They'll give you a number of how much antibodies after a certain time. And mukhang merong mga tao talaga, lalo yung mga natural immunity, ang taas na kanilang antibodies.
Doc, may tanong dito sa katabi ko kasi nagka-COVID po siya. Magkano raw po yung test at saan niya makukuha ito?
Hindi ko business eh.
Sorry.
But I think it's somewhere around 2,000 pero sana nagmura na.
Ayun, 2,000. Okay. Indication
Ideal
lang yan.
kasi ideal kasi sana yung ganyang klaseng test na Doc. Even if you were to take it on a semi-annual basis as opposed to a weekly RT-PCR or ano,
Yeah.
ito at least once every so often.
Correct. And if you think about it, it's better than a vaccine passport. Kasi if you find out if you had the COVID-19 naturally, it will your vaccine work. So it's a better test. Of course, kasi may vaccine passport, something I don't agree also. Kasi meron naman talaga yung mga bata, for example, wala silang risk, pero they have these natural mucosal preventive methods that cannot be measured. Or yung T-cell, may T-cells pero walang antibodies. So for the T memory cells,
what about the claim na months lang ang natural immunity?
No, that's already been disproven many months ago. March, they've been moving yung antibodies. So Japan, we're doing monthly tests of their people who got COVID. Bumababa. However, nami-measure nila that they have T memory cells. So the good thing about it is meron din mga cases naman na more than 8 months after meron pa. Kasi ang beauty ng natural immunity is you get the whole virus itself. So every aspect of that, hindi lang yung buntot. Kung alam niyo no, yung the three blind men, yung isa hawak yung buntot, yung isa hawak lang yung snout, yung isa hawak yung paa. So akala nila elephant, yung pala buntot lang, walang but if you have everything, your body will be able to recognize the elephant, so to speak.
Okay, si Doc Homer can jump in on this if he's still with us now. Tanong ni Maria Elma, what can we do with that mandatory vax by December 1? Pinag-uusapan kasi ito sa legal natin eh.
Yeah. Well, that's a theoretical question. Again, kung politiko ko, dapat hindi sinasagot yun eh. Di ba kasi speculative yan. But again, I can see that some of our candidates, presidential candidates, are already saying they're against mandatory vaccination. That's good news to me. Kasi it seems to be the popular position and they know it. And as the news comes in, you need the third dose. So yan na. Tapos that you are required to wear a mask, that it's still transmissible. These news to me are saying na baka hindi matutuloy yung December 1 na mandatory vaccination. Mukhang matatalo. But on the assumption na matalo, na matuloy ang mandatory vaccination, anong gagawin natin? Pero tanong ko, anong gagawin niyo? I would really like us to do something from the grassroots standpoint. And remember that all these information that we're giving you is to help you make that decision. Is this worth fighting for? I think it is.
Right. Siguro, karamihan sa atin gagawin ang ginawa ni Francis, no? Namundok.
Pagpunta sa beach,
Sa
diba?
beach pala, sa beach.
Wala nga ditong bakunatsi eh. Walang bakunatsi dito. Walang pilitan.
Ako, I'm willing not to go to a restaurant if they really force that. I'm really not. I'm going to, personally lang. I'm not saying everyone should do it. But I would boycott companies that support mandatory vaccination. If my employer does something to force me to work in a difficult circumstances, I would probably report them to the Department of Labor, seek a legal issue. See, that's from my point of view. I think our lawyers are saying the same, di ba, Mari? Tama ba?
Yes, Doc. Actually, I know there's already something going on, pero I'm reluctant to speak about it kasi baka wala pa tayong baka kung nandito si Attorney Lyman, and if he can speak on it,
Yeah.
we can ask him to just raise his hand.
Pero gaya tayo sa US, di ba? Sa US, I think na-freeze yung mandatory. Biden wanted to make it mandatory for
Pero
work.
ang problema, mabilis yung korte doon, Doc. Dito, aabutin ka ng taon bago kumilos. Yes, Doc Allan. Doc Allan?
No, let Dr. Abayani finish with that.
Okay.
I want to go back to the previous question on
Okay na daw siya, Doc. Okay. Doc, okay na daw si Doc Iggy.
status. Okay. So the previous question was about antibodies and natural immunity. No? So I'm not an immunologist. I just go by the basic immunology which every doctor learns in med school. No? Natural immunity has always been established to be a profound and a lifelong immunity. So you don't measure it by antibodies because yung antibodies will really go down because there's no antigen that will provoke it to go up. But you have already, as I agreed fully with Dr. Agbani, there are already memory T cells there. So the immune system has memorized already the SARS-CoV-2, the whole of it, if a person has already natural immunity. And then anytime that virus comes in, then the memory cells will incite the whole cascade of immunologic response, then there will be antibodies to go up. So if I can say it's a totally nonsense concept to say nawawala yung natural immunity, it has never been the concept from the beginning of when immunology was became a science. No? Natural immunity is always a lifelong. Natural immunity is a lifelong immunity. Hindi totoo na 6 months lang. Baliktad, itong vaccines nila ang 6 months lang kasi may ibang variants. No? Remember the first vaccines that they made was based on the Wuhan virus, not on the variants. Kaya it doesn't work with the variants. So, although there's really no measure of natural immunity as yet, no, na available commercially, meron in research, sa laboratories on research. No? Pero just having a history of COVID, I think it concludes that they have natural immunity. Kasi kung hindi nag-develop na immunity, hindi gumaling yan eh. Bumigay na yan, di ba? So, ako, I'm issuing medical certificate for people who got COVID, even they were not tested with RT-PCR and all that, but but we confirm it clinically. I can put my license into issuing medical certificate and justifying them for not getting vaccinated. Because I believe if they get vaccinated, they get complication called enhancement. They will get the worst COVID that they had before if they get vaccinated. So I think I will go far in debate from that question. But the question is natural immunity. I believe people who got COVID already, they have natural immunity and it's a lifelong immunity.
Okay. Si John Kevin sabi sa comments, fully vaccinated with serious adverse reaction parenthesis, blood clot in eye called central retinal vein occlusion with macular edema, retinal vasculitis, vaccine drug adverse reaction of AstraZeneca. Medically confirmed. I have medical certificate and other papers to support. I hope you've already put this into our VAERS um, website, no? Our the page of our website which has the VAERS. Pasok lang doon dyan, Kevin. I don't know if we have Ellie, do you know if we accept documents VAERS natin? I
I'm
hope,
not
no?
sure. Not sure. I'll find out, Mars.
Anyway, if you include your email address there, John, our way to reach you, then we'll find a way to get your supporting documents.
Yeah,
Doc,
may I
yes, Doc.
comment on that? Yung, okay, number one, we are not anti-vaccine, and I'll prove my point. When you say you have retinal vein occlusion with macular edema, okay, that is a finding that can happen to a group of people, particularly mga diabetics. So that's a finding that you can see there. Now, they will always say, of course, is this really because of the vaccine? Siyempre, we can just say it's an association, pero hindi pa directly, it's not directly correlated that it will always cause, or most of the time it can cause. Or is it really because of the vaccine that you develop macular edema or retinal vasculitis? So I'm not saying that it's not possible. You should report it. Kasi that is really how to prove it. Na mukhang mataas ng percentage ng mga taong na-vaccinate na suddenly develop ng macular edema o yung nabanggit na yan. So, but then again, we cannot say for sure that it is the actual cause. No? However, siyempre, kunyari nangyari within a few days, say 1 day, 2 days, you might be on the right path to say that it's really more likely. But again, likely. To prove it kasi ang hirap eh. It's like yung smoking. For the very long time, the big tobacco companies claim that you have to prove that it causes cancer. So he told the courts na, can you prove to us, based on scientific studies, that smoking tobacco causes cancer? And nahirapan kasi it will take years to prove that, kasi it takes years for the cancer to happen. And even mga vaccines can cause that, kaya it will take years to prove. So that is a difficult aspect. No? So yung mga ganitong findings, medyo, please report it. It can be treated. But then again, ang mahirap siya kung may kasamang comorbidities. Like I mentioned, this is usually found sa mga diabetics. Tama po ba, Dr. J. Del Mundo? This is an complication.
Actually, the criteria for whether the symptom or the sign is of vaccine origin is, they say it should happen after 2 weeks of vaccination. Now, with regards to the finding in the eye, the central retinal vein occlusion or central retinal artery occlusion or branch retinal vein occlusion are caused usually by hypertension. Now, if the patient does not have hypertension, history of hypertension or diabetes, then most likely I would conclude, offhand, that it might be due to the vaccine. If it developed 2 weeks after the vaccination, or even up to 1 month. But because I have not seen, rarely have I seen patients without any history of hypertension or diabetes, lalo na diabetes, kasi yung central retinal vein occlusion with macular edema is really caused mainly by hypertension, not by diabetes. Diabetes may cause diabetic retinopathy, which are different, which have different ocular findings.
Doc J, may I just clarify?
Yeah.
it should be after 2 weeks. Hindi pwede, hindi ba within 2 weeks? Talagang after, not within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks. After 2 weeks pala, sorry.
So, kunyari, I detect it within, say, 1 week. It is not because of the vaccine then.
Ang pagkakaano ko when what I read was within 2 weeks from the time you were.
Kasi di ba po, pag sinasabi nga nila na this is a COVID-related death because it happened within 1 month. That is the UK criteria. Sa US yata parang 2 weeks ang criteria nila. So similar criteria, I think.
So,
but Doc Jade, ako naman observation ko that hypertension, most of that is caused by pre-diabetes. So baka related pa rin sa diabetes. Tumutong mo si Ellie. Alam mo naman si Ellie, ano yan. Ang ating holistic approach to...
Yes po.
Dok, bakit sa Pilipinas wala pang namamatay or adverse events ng bakuna? Sabi ng DOH Di ba, Mari?
Hindi, ganito yan. Noong April 22 meron daw. After April 22, wala na.
Aba? Anong criteria ba natin dito, Doc?
Kasi remember, April 22, there were parang 23 deaths associated to COVID-19, to vaccination. And then may nag-complain na dapat hindi rin i-report associated. Thereafter, wala nang nag-report. But I'm told that you can actually go to the DOH site and look for it there. Not easy to do, but it can be done now. And a few months later, they claimed that there were 100 associated na.
Lang yun,
But recently, I haven't checked.
How many?
Okay, update lang ako, no? I found that YouTube video I was talking about earlier na Senator Johnson Senate hearing. And nahanap ko yung link, so pinost ko sa comments. Pag-check ko sa YouTube, dinelete na ng YouTube. Ang bilis talaga nila because alam naman natin hindi pwede mag-report ng vaccine adverse effects, no? But I found a backup link on Odyssey, ODYSEE, and I already posted the link again in the chat. No, it was titled Senator Johnson Expert Panel on Federal Vaccine Mandates. Yung original na title included the term vaccine adverse injury and vaccine injuries. So there are multiple on Odyssey. There are multiple copies of the more than 3 hours long na hearing na talagang talagang nakakagimbal panoorin. Iyak kami ng iyak ni Enchang kanina nung pinapanood namin ito. But it's really stirring.
Si Dr. Quijano may comment, si Ma?
Yes, Doc Romy. Pa-unmute lang po. There you go.
Oo, kasi magre-react lang ako doon sa criteria na para malaman kung adverse reaction yan o hindi. Very arbitrary yung paglalagay nila ng time para sabihin ay adverse reaction o hindi. Hindi ka pwedeng maglagay ng time limit dyan sa adverse reaction. If you look at the mechanism of adverse reactions of chemicals, drugs, there is no time limit actually. It can occur immediately, a few seconds, or it can occur several years after. Hindi ka pwedeng maglagay ng time limit because of the various mechanisms of action that's possible. Specifically for vaccines, napakaraming mechanisms of adverse reaction yan. Hindi lang naman sa spike protein yan. And very recently, meron pa yung sinasabi na epigenetic effects. And these epigenetic effects can affect a lot of metabolic functions, including the activation or inactivation of certain genes, including genes for cancer, allergies, and everything. And this has been shown scientifically in previous studies. And this can occur anytime actually. Kaya hindi tama yung sinasabing merong time period where you can call a certain thing adverse reaction from this vaccine or drug, and after that you can no longer call it adverse reaction. That's not scientifically correct.
Di ba po
So-
yung ano po
so-
yung ADA, sir, yung di ba na you will get the reaction when you get the disease after the vaccination, and we don't know when
Yeah,
that will happen.
Yeah, that's true. And that's only one of the probable hundreds of possible mechanisms that would happen. Remember, vaccines do have certain contaminants that are yet undisclosed. And looking at the history of previous vaccines, marami nang nakitang nanoparticles, including nanometals, contaminating these vaccines. And you don't know exactly when this might happen, itong adverse effects. Meron nang nakitang mercury, may nakita kung ano-ano pa at the nanoparticle level. And they haven't checked these vaccines for their presence. And again, because of the new technologies, hindi pa rin tayo sigurado kung ano pang bagong nanoparticles ang kanilang isinama dyan. And there is already evidence that graphene oxide is most likely incorporated in some of these vaccines. If not now, maybe later sa booster shots. So ang dami-daming mechanisms that's possible. And again, if you look at hindi ko nasa actually yung criteria for determining whether an adverse reaction happened or not is a mixture of scientific and non-scientific criteria. For example, in medicine, we all know that we rely largely on the testimony of the patient himself or herself. You don't discount what the patient says about what he or she experienced about their body. Although that may not be definitive, it counts a lot. It can be significant. Kaya nga tayo kumukuha ng meticulous history ng present illness or even past illnesses or even illnesses that might have some kind of genetic influences. So that is very complex phenomenon that we should consider. And those who immediately judge that there's no relationship between the exposure to the vaccine and the adverse effects are being unscientific because they completely ignore many of the relevant factors that might contribute to the generation of the adverse effects. So, well, of course, you can look at the Hill criteria, but even that is not enough, I think. And I have discussed this at length with some of the other chemicals. So, well, there's a lot of details that needs to be discussed about it. The other thing is that even though the association or the theoretical possibility has not reached the level of scientific evidence acceptable to many scientists, it depends again on how you look at the circumstances. For example, if you encounter a thing that you don't know exactly what it is, but you know certain characteristics, like you know that it has weight, it has dimensions, and it responds to the law of gravity. You don't need to do a rigorous scientific experiment to find out that this thing will harm somebody if somebody got hit when this thing is dropped from a 10-story building. The same is true with vaccines. We know a lot of characteristics of many of these vaccines, and we know all the theoretical possibilities of adverse effects. You don't have to actually see an actual incident of the adverse effects to conclude that these adverse effects can happen and probably happening with this vaccine. And that's sufficient as a basis for action to prevent that from happening, especially if the benefit is not really very clear and if it is not really if the benefits is not more than the expected adverse effects. So a lot of these things should come into play. Well, anyway, I don't like to take a lot of time. I actually decided
Yes.
just to listen, but I couldn't help but to react.
Okay, let's start.
Sige,
That's
yun lang
no,
muna siguro, yun lang muna siguro.
It's our honor and privilege to
Yes.
have Dr. Quijano comment.
Doc, I have only bad news to add. And it all comes from that Senate hearing ni Senator Johnson. Lumabas doon na yung mga ibang nag-testify sa kanilang hearing, ay mga miyembro ng clinical trial ng CDC FDA sa US. And one of the comments that came out of a mother whose daughter is now seriously ill, naka-wheelchair na po yung bata, after getting a volunteering. Nag-volunteer sila para masali sa clinical trials. Ang sabi ng nanay, binigyan sila ng listahan kung anong pwedeng, parang tick box. Okay, fever, chills, irritation on injection site. At hanggang dun lang. Like you were saying, Doc Romy, no? Hanggang dun lang talaga. May listahan sila and you cannot exceed kung anong binigay nila. So yung adverse reactions, yung adverse effects are limited to what they propose that you can acknowledge as one of the adverse effects that you experienced. Ang isa pa, ang iniisip ko, ito yung these are the members of the clinical trials that form the basis, and they tried to reach the CDC, they tried to reach the FDA to talk more about their situation, kasi ang pangako sa kanila ng una is kung magka-adverse events kayo, sagot namin. You need a doctor, will take care of you. Yung isang babae doon, I don't know if she's a doctor, sabi niya, they had to refinance already their house dahil sa paggamot sa kanya after ng bakuna. And these are, what I'm saying is that these are members of the clinical trials which form the basis for the issuance of the EUA. Butas-butas ang information nila. Okay, it's extremely biased collection of the evidence, and then binigyan ng EUA na yan din ang EUA na ginawang basehan ng ating FDA to allow the vaccines here. Kasi gaya-gaya ang FDA sa Pilipinas, di ba? Kung anong sabihin ng FDA sa Amerika, yan din ang gagawin dito. Wala silang pakialam. Forget about testing our own people or finding out on our own. They will just follow what the US FDA said. And in this case, that hearing exposes how many major holes there are in the testing process for the vaccines. Major holes. Yung iba namatay, yung iba nag-suicide na lang dahil hindi sumasagot ang FDA CDC. Grabe, grabe. I can only give you a snippet of it. You really have to watch it yourself. It's worth the 3 hours plus watching. Doc Allan, yes, go ahead, please. Naka-mute po kayo, Doc Allan.
Yeah, we're talking about adverse reaction. Just now, a friend is texting me that many Filipino doctors were ophthalmologists. No, the ophthalmologists, they are looking into the blood vessels in the eyes, no? And they are reporting that they are seeing a lot of branched vein occlusions and central retinal vein occlusions. So if it's occurring inside the retina, it's occurring in the brain and different parts of the body. Kaya itong, this issue on adverse reaction is really, really appalling. And Dr. Quijano begins talking about late sequela. We are just seeing the acute adverse reaction, but there are late sequela like carcinogenesis, teratogenesis, autoimmune disorders, so many things. Pero itong adverse reaction, the acute adverse reaction is really a big concern. So I'm just, mentioning this kasi we are seeing a lot of that, and reporting is not really as virtual as it should be. So just to add the spirit of CDCPH spirit on concern on adverse reaction.
All right, thank you, Doc. Anything to add, Doc Iggy?
Yeah, kasi I think you also watched this, Mari, yung talk ni Dr. Bhattacharya ng Stanford.
Yes.
He's talking about, in public health, kailangan symmetric ang approach. Hindi pa pwedeng, okay, let's give vaccine because it will help the population. So, and it's, for the sake of safety, let's do it as soon as possible. Pero public health, hindi ganon. Public health requires that you should evaluate equally yung adverse events. So, hindi pa pwede po yung ginagawa natin na parang report natin, ang dami na naming napakunahan. Look, isn't that an accomplishment? The success of vaccination must measure both the impact on COVID-19 hospitalization and death and the impact of the adverse events and deaths. Dapat Nagkaroon tayo ng, ayaw nila gamitin yung surge. Dr. Salvania doesn't like the word surge. It's a wave. But waves do go down because syempre, one, may fear. Certainly may awareness that we should be more careful during these times. And of course, yung herd immunity na people who get sick with time get less. And of course, the variants. These factors must be all considered. But yung deaths, if you can show the deaths, ang mas konti yung deaths. And I don't like naman to say na kaya konti yung deaths, Ivermectin lang, ano? It would also be unfair.
Teka lang,
But if you show the deaths, kasi binabantayan ko rin to eh.
Okay, sandali. Screenshot ko lang, Doc, ha, sandali. Tapos padala ko kaya medyo.
But the
medyo
deaths
low-tech
are lower. Pero ang maganda talaga yung percentage of number of cases as to number of tests done or by population. Hindi maganda yung ginagawa ng DOH na they give you numbers lang without relatively speaking, dapat hindi maganda itong ganito eh.
Ito, Ellie, nasa Viber mo na ngayon yung deaths. But while Ellie's doing
Okay.
that, I'll go back to the cases. So for those who can't see it, ang pinaka-peak natin September 9 to September 15, 127,679. Once again, that's September 9 to September 15. From a low point of 29,057 cases in July 1st to July 7th. Tapos tayo ngayon ay, if I'm reading this correctly, Doc Iggy, 9,390 cases, 9,390 cases, November 4 to November 10. If you can show it anytime, Ellie. So as soon as you have it, you can show them.
Yeah.
Okay, Mars.
So yun yung Doc, yun yung cases habang hinahanda ni Ellie yung deaths na chart. So malaki talaga yung bagsak. Doc, what exactly, I know whether we're speaking of waves or surges, napaka-taas nung nag-peak siya nung September 9. To what would you attribute that?
In taas, of course, the variant is a factor. I think the aggressiveness of our government to test is also a factor. It's now easier for people to get it. So hindi lang naman yan. Kaya hindi ko masyado ginagamit ng cases. So you always try to look at hospitalization rate, positivity rate, and deaths. Kasi ang deaths, syempre, walang dayaan dun eh. Patay o buhay.
Okay, it's on the screen now, Doc, yung deaths na chart.
Pero meron dyan sa chart nila, yung positivity rate, I think it's already 5%. Medyo okay na rin eh.
Positivity.
Kasi dati we were reaching 20% of all the number of people tested, about 20% are positive.
Ito yung malungkot sa akin, Doc, kasi for those who are not aware, even before December of last year, ang sinasabi na ng mga doktor natin, we were already approaching herd immunity. At least sa NCR, Doc, please correct me if I'm wrong. Pero December of last year. Ang problema is after that, nag-umpisa sila magbakuna. And doon nag-umpisa yung spike ng 2021, culminating in that huge wave or surge, whatever you want to call it, in September, which is really appalling. Now that's cases. Now let's if we take a look at.
I was saying naman na herd immunity is not just about vaccination. So many things happened over the last many months that has made our country less healthy. Most of my patients that I haven't seen for almost 2 years, pagbalik mas mataba na, mas mataas na ang HbA1c nila, may hypertension na. So those factors should be counted in when we try to gain herd immunity. Kasi yun eh. People think na, kailangan may antibodies ka, herd immunity. Yes, it's part of it. I'm not saying it's not. But herd immunity is also the health, a measurement of the health and the amount of immunity of the population. So it should never have been a one-dimension approach.
So Doc, kung sabihin ng and I can't blame them if they want to try and say this, but can they not say that, nakita niyo yung drastic na decline dahil yan sa vaccination?
Well, hindi maganda yan kasi yan dapat ang mini-measure natin yung tinatawag na excess deaths or mga reports of adverse reactions included. Kasi tandaan nga natin, ang gusto natin sana yung less deaths from this COVID-19. So hindi pa natin masusukat. But I'm hearing, I think in the US, for the early months, from February to July, they had an excess deaths na hindi nila ma-attribute to anything. So I could only, for example, isn't that the time na marami na vaccinate na and this is in the elderly, 65 and above, there was an excess deaths more than 2020. So what does that tell you? Na pwedeng it may have caused a wave sa elderly. Kasi hindi nila ma-attribute sa COVID-19 eh.
Ang ibig nyo sabihin, Doc, yung kaya namatay yung mga matatanda dahil sa bakuna.
It's a possibility. It's one of the theories now going on kung bakit may COVID naman last year, tapos this year may COVID pa rin, bakit mas marami pa rin namatay above 65? Not related to COVID.
Yun yung sinasabi, Doc, paano mo mapoprove na dahil sa bakuna yun? Yun ang mahirap na sitwasyon natin ngayon.
Yeah. It's a good cause to measure and it should be investigated. Kasi dali-dali natin sabihin, yan, bumababa. Talaga naman bababa eh. Kasi there are too many factors to be included. Kasi may tinatawag tayong black swan. No? If you claim vaccines will definitely, all of them should go down, that's not true in some countries. Many countries I know are fully vaccinated na tumataas pa rin ang cases. Sa Europe, I think right now, medyo tumataas yung cases na naman kahit na marami ng vaccinated.
Idadagdag si Doc Romy.
It's not easy to interpret data. You have to get the right data. So, and a public health consultant, an epidemiologist to chime in on this.
Okay, Doc Romy?
Komentaryo ko lang is yung titignan natin muli ang history para maintindihan natin kung ano nangyayari ngayon. If we look back into the history, ang mga responsable sa pagde-design ng studies about vaccines are precisely the companies themselves. And therefore, they will design those studies in which to base decisions about vaccines in terms of what is favorable to them. And that includes randomized clinical trials and the other parameters. And if you look again into the history, there has never been a real comparative study, a scientific study done on a large scale between the vaccinated people and the unvaccinated people. They don't want to do that because they know they will discover that the vaccinated people may have worse health outcome than the unvaccinated. And so they come up also with the criteria to limit these parameters so that they can actually claim through some manipulation of parameters, criteria, and the studies in a reductionist manner. That's why they don't actually use the all-cause mortality, all-cause morbidity, which actually is being talked about by Iggy, comparing those who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated. If you look into the COVID-19 phenomenon, there has been no study large scale, independently, or even by the companies to show the difference in terms of all-cause morbidity and all-cause mortality between vaccinated and unvaccinated. They avoid doing that because they know it will result in clear results that, in fact, those vaccinated will result in worse health outcome, not only immediate, of course, but also over the long term. And what other independent scientists can only do is to use whatever data is available because they don't have the resources to do such kind of large-scale studies. Only the big companies and governments can do that, which of course is highly biased in favor of big pharma. For example, even in the case of cancer treatments, you see always favorable results with new anti-cancer drugs in terms of reduction of tumor, for example. But they don't compare the overall mortality rate and morbidity rate between those treated with this new anti-cancer drug and simply not doing anything. You know, uh, so they can make the results seem favorable, but in fact, if you compare in many instances, even if the drug is effective in reducing tumor, patients die because of the adverse effects of the drug itself. And then these patients die of blood complications, renal failure, liver failure, what have you, which may not be diagnosed as cancer anymore. So this gives to a misleading result that there is no increase in cancer mortality when they give the drugs, because these patients died of something else. In their death certificate, it's no longer cancer. So this is also happening with the case of vaccines. Therefore, an honest to goodness evaluation should come up with a real comparative study done independently by independent scientists with integrity, not by the companies. Right now, we have only studies by big companies that will show the difference between the all-cause mortality and all-cause morbidity between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated over a certain period of time. That includes long-term assessment. We don't have that. That's why they always can claim they have this. Always can claim efficacy and safety of the vaccine using limited parameters, which are false and highly misleading. So again, this involves a lot of discussion among scientists and doctors. I'm not sure how many doctors really understand this phenomenon.
Totoo po yun, sir. Kahit mga doktor nahihirapan. Kasi for example, when they say that a vaccine works, they say, oh look, oh, during this time we were vaccinating and we had low cases of smallpox. After no use of, when they stopped using vaccine, tumaas yung cases. So that's not really a scientific way to do it. Kasi may mga biases and the way it's presented, iba. So same way that I would not really just conclude may excess death, but it's very suspicious. We use epidemiology to tell us that there might be something there worth investigating, but we cannot make conclusions, positive or negative conclusions.
Doc
Okay,
Allan, go
Dr.
ahead.
Allan, yeah.
Alan,
Ako
Doc
pa.
Allan?
Yeah, when we look into the whole pandemic, no, there has been 3 peaks already. Now it's dipping. Hopefully, we're ending the pandemic. Mukhang we're reaching herd immunity. No? Now, if we compare this with other pandemics, no, they don't have antivirals before, but then the pandemic ended. Yeah, the experts have been saying a pandemic will only be within 18 to 24 months. So what attribute to this dipping of the curve? I don't think it's I think it's the natural course of the pandemic. It may be a factor could be the vaccine. A factor could also be ivermectin. If we look into Uttar Pradesh, the experience of Uttar Pradesh, then they had dipping when they were expecting the Delta is there to spread, and yet because they gave ivermectin to the big population, then the curve dipped. It could be dipping. Could be attributed to either natural course of the pandemic, to the vaccines, or to ivermectin, or a combination of and 2 or 3 of all of these.
Yes, Doc Romy.
Sorry.
And if we look,
Sorry.
we were made to think. If we remember early last year, we were made to think that this COVID-19 will be like people just dropping dead. But if we look into the numbers now, we only have total deaths of 5 million. If you do your mathematics, 5 million over 7.5 billion, that's 0.06% lang. So it's not even comparable with the Black Death, like decimating 1/3 of the population of Europe or things like that. So I think this pandemic is so dramatized too much, and I don't know why they pushed on the vaccine. They could have just pushed on therapeutics.
Wala kasi
May
pera,
tanong
Doc.
po. May tanong ka, Pera. May tanong, Mari.
Yep.
Kasi merong magta-travel.
Pakuan lang natin si Doc Romy, padugtong na natin
Sige,
si Doc Romy.
Romy.
Diretso tayo.
Romy.
Yes, Doc Romy.
Sige. Yeah, bago ko makalimutan ulit, kasi I wanted to comment on herd immunity din.
Sige po.
again, the concept of herd immunity was actually creation of big pharma and those who are responsible for
Namatay. Kailangan ko i-plug.
Francis, rinig ka.
Sorry po.
Sorry, Doc.
yeah, and that's why they use this to justify yung mass vaccination even from the very beginning. In fact, the concept of herd immunity came about as a description of a natural course of measles epidemics in sometime in early 1900s by Dr. Hedrick, I believe. Although there are other scientists who also made mention about herd immunity, but the formal study on herd immunity was done on measles epidemic in certain areas in the U.S. and it describes the natural occurrence of the epidemic over time, and it was observed that when approximately almost 70% of the population has already experienced the infection and therefore developed already certain immunity, then the epidemic starts to go down. And then those who have been peddling vaccines use this concept to justify vaccination. And they actually claimed initially that with vaccines, they also can achieve lifelong immunity like what happens in natural infection. And this has been proven false time and again. And yet, many people still believe that vaccination can, many people are still made to believe because of the constant propaganda on herd immunity brought about by vaccines, that vaccines we can achieve herd immunity by mass vaccination. In fact, this has never been proven scientifically that vaccines can give rise to herd immunity. Never. With smallpox, there was none. Even with polio, even with measles. In fact, with measles, even with 100% vaccination rate, you have also outbreaks of epidemics. And in fact, the initial claim that if you get 70% vaccination rate, then you already get so-called herd immunity. That has been proven false time and again. Even with this COVID vaccine, initially they claimed that the target percentage of people vaccinated is 70%. If you remember, early last year, they were targeting 70% or even less, or even 50%. And then they come up with 80%. And then now they come up with 90% before you can achieve herd immunity. And there has never been actually any valid scientific study that has proven that vaccines can achieve herd immunity. So I tend to avoid using also herd immunity as a concept, tending to reinforce that idea because that is being used by authorities and big pharma to actually mislead people into accepting mass vaccination. Because if you accept the concept that you can achieve herd immunity, then you are susceptible to believing what they are claiming. So it's better to really go back into the natural course of viruses, describing it as natural immunity. It doesn't have to be 70%. It doesn't have to be 50%. Doesn't have to be 90% because that has never been scientifically demonstrated.
Right.
You can have recovery from any epidemic or even pandemic with whatever immunity level that you might have on different counts or on different manner. We're not even sure whether it's measured by antibodies. So now we have better understanding that there are many unknown factors that contribute to the immunity of the individual in terms of resisting the virus, apart from the environmental factors that also affect the transmissibility and pathogenicity of the virus. So there are so many factors involved. The problem is we're still stuck into the reductionist paradigm in terms of science. That's why we are trapped into this kind of limiting concepts, So I think we need to start to be weaned away from these reductionist concepts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If I may add nga kasi because I did mention herd immunity. When I did my own research on what is herd immunity, Mas maganda basahin sa textbook. Ingat kayo sa Google when you look for herd immunity. It's,
Bakit kaya?
yeah, I know. Google is controlled somewhere. So I checked the textbook. Kasi hindi tayo homogeneous population. That's one concept. What do I mean by homogeneous? Hindi po tayo pare-pareho lahat sa reaction, sa safety or rates of dying or getting sick. Hindi pare-pareho. So I would even say as siguro 70% of the, at least Filipinos, because we are in a tropical climate, mas marami bata, mas less ang matatanda. So 70% probably will never die of COVID-19. Never. Problema yung 30%. Lumalaki yun, pwedeng lumiliit. So yan ang concept ng herd immunity. It's not a single number na you can easily identify. So I agree with Sarah, no? And if you think about it, what the big pharmas are doing is trying to increase the amount of vaccination because it is, of course, it's they're all for profit. They want to show you that they want to increase it from 70%. Ngayon, gagawin na nilang 90%, dapat lumabigyan. Dati hindi kasama bata, ngayon sasama bata. Sales na naman yan. Dati 2 doses lang, ngayon 3 doses lang. Tapos pag may bago naman variant, may baka 4th dose na naman. So we should really be careful. Marami talaga pong problema out there na people want to make a profit. Probably because they also know it doesn't affect everyone. No? But at the same time, may nagsabi na nga that every life matters. And anyway, I agree with that.
Okay. Mari,
Yes, go ahead.
a practical question dito. Kasi may abogadong pupuntang Europa sa Rome. Ngayon, nagpabakuna siya ng Sinovac na. Pero kailangan ng booster shot kasi nga hindi siya makaka-travel sa Rome kung hindi siya magpa-booster shot. mRNA ang kailangan na booster shot. So, forced to good siya to take an mRNA vaccine. One, first question is, what vaccine booster shot should he take? And two, how does he protect himself from possible adverse effects of the booster shot?
Well, it's not a scientific question. It is actually a regulation issue. If you ask me, siyempre, I do not agree that the vaccination should even have been a criteria. So, is it safe? My answer nga, mukhang hindi safe ang vaccination for a certain group of people, and in general, we're better off not getting the vaccine in general, but it does have benefit. So kasi for us to answer his question, he's assuming tama yung rules, and then if we follow the rules, what are the dangers? Di ba? Parang hindi yung pagka-frame ng question. I'm not saying that he's trying to lead us to an answer. Pero that's the way I think of it. It's not a scientific question.
Francis,
No
last
choice
20 minutes
kasi po.
tayo.
Sorry, no choice kasi po siya. Kailangan niyang mag-travel kasi
Yeah, may
kikita
choice.
Anong
There's a
choice po?
choice. That's not true. He can decide not to go. So that's not true na walang choice.
Okay raw po.
Okay. Ang
Kasi
tanong dyan, is
Pilipino
there a
tayo,
risk,
we are allowed to be coerced. We should not be.
risk-benefit analysis dapat dyan, di ba, Doc?
Correct. And it has nothing to do with their rules. They insert the rules to coerce you. Hindi po, hindi po science-based yung rules na yan. That is what we should fight.
Okay. So
Okay.
Francis, last 20 minutes tayo. So let's go through the questions very quickly. I don't quite understand this question. Maybe our doctors do. According to an article in Pathos, a website through Catholic lenses, fetal cell line like HEK293 was used to test modern medicines. I wonder if you mean modern vaccines. Ivermectin was one of them. Is this true? Can any doctor answer this? Do you understand the question? Once again, according to an article in Pathos, a website through Catholic lenses, fetal cell line like HEK293 was used to test modern medicines. Ivermectin was one of them. Is this true? Ang alam ko kasi ang HEK293 ginamit sa vaccine, hindi po sa gamot. And ivermectin does not have fetal cell lines. Tama po ba, Doc Allan? Doc Iggy? Naka-mute ka po kayo, Doc Allan. Naka-mute po, Doc Allan.
I don't know where that idea is coming from. No, it has nothing to do with any of those cell research and all that. It's a simple bacterial byproduct, and they just harvest that molecule, and it's the medicine itself. No, walang ganung process.
All right. Next question. May I know if Kawasaki syndrome gets well? My daughter had it when she was 2 years old. She's now 27 years old and is considering getting vaccinated. I'm advising her against it. May I know your opinion on this? Thank you very much.
Yeah, Kawasaki syndrome is found in children. It's an inflammatory problem of the heart, parang myocarditis of some kind. I'm not too familiar with it. I'm not a cardiologist. I do not know how to treat it. I don't think we have the knowledge yet on how to treat it. We can probably use mga anti-inflammatories, but I don't think anyone has a monopoly on the knowledge on this.
I guess, Doc, ang tanong is headed towards that the fact that myocarditis nga po ang connection, no? Because the vaccines, some of the vaccines have been connected to myocarditis. I guess what she's worried about is that baka mag-trigger yung vaccine.
Yung Kawasaki. Eh, kung may Kawasaki na before, syempre, that's another thing. But if she's asking, did it cause Kawasaki disease? That's a possibility.
Hindi po. The daughter had it when she was 2 years old.
Yeah,
she's now 27.
It could be a risk. I believe it could be a risk kasi nga it's an inflammatory problem.
Okay.
Maybe Allan knows more. Baka si Allan.
Doc Allan?
One of the known causes of vaccine failure is the creation of an autoimmune disorder. And Kawasaki disease is an autoimmune disorder. If it's silent this time, then they give a vaccine. There's every possibility to involve the process of autoimmune. So it's dangerous to give people. This is what I feel. No, there should be inclusion and exclusion criteria in giving the vaccine, and one of the exclusion criteria should be any autoimmune disorder.
Okay. Tanong ni Edison,
it has always been in the literature on vaccine that one of the failures of the vaccine is autoimmune disorder. So pag nag-create ng autoimmune disorder, dapat iba yung vaccine na yun.
Okay. Tanong ni
so there's high potential for it to be invoked and to reactivate that autoimmune disorder.
Okay. Okay. Tanong ni Edison, pwede makahingi ng list of resource speakers on that COVID Summit Day. Sa ngayon po, I can tell you that Dr. Marivic Villa, Dr. Allan Landrito, and we have received positive responses from Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Tess Laurie, Dr. Sabine Hazan Stenberg, if I'm not mistaken, and I think we're still waiting for the answer from Dr. Corey, although he initially said yes. I might be missing a few. If Doc Homer, if you're still with us, paki-raise na ng hand. Doc Homer. Sabi ni Veer, look to Doc Allan, good to see you in this huddle. Tanong uli ni Lily, kasi kanina pa po ito ng mga tanong. Can unvaccinated guests enter Vivere? Are guests required to have RT-PCR? Nasagot na po natin yung kanina. Tanong din ni Chat, allowed po ang unvax sa live event. I do not understand, sabi ni Larry Salazar, I do not understand the harder push now by LGUs and business owners to limit movement or access to the vaxxed. The DOH acknowledged US CDC study that both vaxxed and unvaxxed can get infected and transmit the infection. So if this is so, why the differentiation or segregation and deliberate confusing of people? I don't think they have done that. Recently, naglabas ang CDC had to answer an FOI, Freedom of Information request, and again they acknowledge that they have no data of any COVID-infected survivor. Any COVID survivor who infected someone else. So, strengthening the immune, may dadagdag ka, Doc Allan, Doc Iggy?
Yeah, yung mga LGUs, even DOH, I will even include the WHO, do not act only because of science. For lack of, to be kind to them, they act based on some political issues as well, and influence of people with interests, whether financial or power interests. So they're pushing for vaccination. So therefore they're attaching all these rules for us to use the vaccine as hard, as often, as many as possible. And you know the companies that are responsible for this. And if I have to mention them, I would mention Pfizer. I would mention Merck. They are billion-dollar industries that have a long history of effect on our health institutions, our doctors, the WHO. So that is sort of my parting statement. Kung nagtataka pa kayo, hindi na po talaga, ang mundong ito hindi lang maraming bagay na may impluensya, but I hope more groups like CDCPH can come out to be yung mga independent opinions na banggit nga ni Dr. Quijano. When you look at someone who will give you advice, it should be an independent group. Wala pong conflict of interest. That is a very, very important criteria. Hindi na po importante ngayon kung ikaw ay Harvard, kung na-train ka sa ng epidemic. That more often now than ever.
Alam ko, ang diploma ni Francis galing ng rector. Doc Allan, go ahead please.
Yeah, I don't know if I understood the last part of the question when you were saying COVID survivor, are they infecting people? Is that the question?
Yeah, Doc,
Kasi,
the question.
Dr. Cole to speak at our event. No?
Si Dr. Sabine?
Being, yes, she has already said yes, but kasi gusto ko sigurado na talagang she will speak. So she would agree to the time that we would when she would talk. Kasi of course we still want it live rather than recorded. So para meron talaga tayong interaction. I mean, I just want to share with everyone that we're doing this summit not for us. We're doing this summit is really sana to open up the eyes of all these doctors that there are other protocols, procedures. How can we improve our management of our patients, especially those in the ICU? Kasi I think we have been talagang medyo maging mataas talaga ang mortality natin when it comes to managing patients with COVID, especially in the hospital. So it's really more for we want to hopefully open some eyes and some hearts and some ears of doctors that there are other ways of treating this aside from what is current standards or current recommendations set by the policymakers. No?
And Doc, we need to know that we are inviting Secretary Duque. Hindi po ba?
Yes, we are going to invite, and I really hope and pray he would help us. I mean, he would join us in this in this summit, because you will see also yung bayanihan ng Filipinos, because we're also inviting the organizers of the IBMCC as well as the organizer of yung IPK or Ivermectin para sa kapwa, and how they did it, how they managed their yung neighbor or their friends or family, how they manage them on an outpatient basis. Now, you don't have to go to the hospital. You can even do it at home if you are being guided properly. And we will show that, and we will show the world that what we have been doing is quite unique. I don't think other countries are doing it. I think tayo lang talagang gumagawa ng home-based management based on, by volunteers. I think that's one of the things that really are excellent for everyone in the world to know and to hear about.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Doc Jade, may comment po sa chat from Freddy. You might want to answer him with your details po. Sabi ni Freddy, what are the contact details of Dr. Jade so that if we have patients for referral to St. Luke's for Regeneron and other treatment, I'm supposing that kasama na rin dyan ang leronlimab. Baka pwede na lang po ninyong sagutin ng diretso yung ibigay sa kanila kay Freddy ang inyong contact info. Tanong hindi ko mabasa yung bakit nawala, naputol yung pangalan dito. May nagtatanong, sir, baka may makasagot po, saan po makakabili ng Ivermectin sa Davao? Today, I went to 2 drugstores, sa sikat na national drugstore na Mercury Drug, and isa is sikat din na local drugstore here sa Davao. Per checking sa system nila, walang Ivermectin available. Thanks po. Doc Homer, ano kaya nangyari dito? Baka naubos ng office ng mayor? Yeah.
No, there has been kumbaga a deficiency, or yun nga, pagkukulang talaga ng stocks ngayon ng Lloyd's, no. By the way, Lloyd's, maybe you would like to sponsor the event also.
Knock, knock. Okay. Our family, tanong ni Ramir, is scheduled to get pneumonia vaccine on Monday. My next take of Ivermectin is on Wednesday. Would it be okay to proceed? Ulitin ko yung tanong, mga doc. Our family is scheduled to get pneumonia vaccine. Pneumonia vaccine on Monday. My next take of Ivermectin is Wednesday. Would it be okay to proceed? Yes, Doc. Yes, po.
Yeah, go on, Dr. Landrito.
Can I answer? I never, even a single time, recommended pneumonia vaccine or flu vaccine during this pandemic. There was an incident somewhere in Sariaya, Quezon, way back, I think it's August 2020. 2 friends, under 40s, had this idea that they would get pneumonia vaccine, and they're healthy. For them to be protected from COVID. It's a misconception, but they went anyway to the hospital and got pneumonia vaccines. Both of them got hospitalized, one of them died. So after that, I learned my lesson. I will never recommend
Okay, is there
pneumonia or flu vaccine during the pandemic.
Dahil po, does it make you more vulnerable? Is it an issue with of the immune system? Yeah.
It's for a totally different virus,
Yes.
But
Yes.
I still don't know how it is treated. But we've been seeing early on, even last year, that a trend that those people who had previously for so many years been getting regularly this flu vaccine, they're more vulnerable to getting the COVID. So, and more vulnerable to dying from COVID. Although those links were taken down early on, but we have seen those kinds of data.
Doc Romy, go ahead.
May comment si Dr. Quijano.
Yes, Doc.
Sir.
Yes, again, you have to go back to history to know why that phenomenon happens. And you can see also scientific evidence to show that these vaccinations, pneumococcal vaccination and the other vaccinations like flu, practically all vaccinations actually diminish your capacity to resist other infectious diseases, including dengue, for example, or other viral infections. And this has been observed quite commonly, especially in India, when they actually made a lot of vaccinations on pneumococcal, using pneumococcal vaccines, and a lot of people suffered adverse reactions. And one of the mechanisms why this happened is that it actually diminished your weakened your immune system, and that's also true with the at least for a period of time, before, especially before they can activate your specific antibodies. And as explained by Dr. Van der Bos, these vaccines can actually suppress your natural immunity. So that is not only true for COVID vaccines, but it's also true for other vaccines. So other vaccines can also suppress your natural immunity. So that's most likely the main reason why the phenomenon as observed by Dr. Landrito happens on a theoretical basis. But there is, as I've said, there are some scientific studies to support this. And again, I would add that other unknown factors inside that vaccine, which may not be may not be the element that will produce antibodies for that specific virus, but the contaminants that I've been mentioning, the nanometals that might be there, the surviving genetic elements from other retroviruses that still might be present in these vaccines, especially those vaccines prepared through cell cultures, because they can never truly purify the cell culture contaminants. There is no vaccine that is 100% pure, in fact. So all these potential contaminants can depress the immune system and could lead to more vulnerability to a new vaccine that is being injected to an individual. So yes, Dr. Landrito, there is a sound theoretical scientific basis for the observation that you made.
All right, thank you, Dr. Romy. Yes, Dr. Ed?
Yeah. With regards to the Regeneron, it's already available in St. Luke's, but your doctor should call the ER manager on duty, no? And I'm going to send the contact number in this chat.
Okay.
You have it has your doctor must have because they need inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Your particular doctor should know this. It is given from the emergency room. You can go there even if without being admitted to the hospital. You can get it in the emergency room. The patient can get it there upon recommendation of the doctor. So you have the doctor.
Okay, I think the concern, Doc, is baka wala silang kilalang doktor na naniniwala, let's say.
Yung
sa
doctor mo, yung
Regeneron.
your particular doctor, wherever you are, can prescribe Regeneron to you, and he will be the one to call the ER manager of that hospital,
Okay.
St. Luke's. They're open naman eh. They're open to everybody,
Okay.
not necessarily St. Luke's doctors only.
Doc, I remember in the first days ng leronlimab, St. Luke's was one of the applicants for CSP. Is it still the case?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can get leronlimab at St. Luke's?
Yeah, you can get
All
Leron
branches.
at St. Luke's also.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
Let's hear from Manolo. Manolo Gonzalez, you got your hand raised. I'm asking you to unmute. We have a few in the next question from Rika. Doc, who's that? Doc Iggy?
Yeah, go ahead with the question.
Sorry,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Okay, Rika Ombos is asking, Doc Allan, the ivermectin for 5 days before and after vaccination, is that also okay for a 14-year-old? The ivermectin for 5 days before and after vaccination is also okay for a 14-year-old. Ang tanong ko lang kay Rika, number one, babakunahan nyo yung 14-year-old? Pangalawa, is it pang ano? But anyway, Doc Allan, you wanna go ahead and answer? Doc Allan?
Yes, don't get me wrong when I recommend this 5-day, this pre and post-vaccine prophylaxis. No, I will still prefer you not get vaccinated if we've been talking for 2 hours already about adverse reactions and all that. Anyway, I would like to mention here, I would maybe it may be in time, so I would just like to don't miss the chance to mention here about ivermectin. I heard there was an advisory from the DOH that it harms the liver and the kidney. It doesn't have any basis. No. I just give you a case in point. I have this patient, 25-year-old female, EM, initials. No? And JE, sorry, JE. I gave her ivermectin 230 capsules. She had severe COVID. We were just managing her at home, and she fully recovered and she's improved. She's back on her health. No? At the same time, after 230 capsules, we check on the liver, we check on the creatine. Creatine was 70, the SGPT was 28. It's all normal. It has no basis. And you know what? What is interesting? She was working with 4 other office mates. They all got COVID, severe COVID. There were 4 who got COVID. The 3 were brought to the hospital. They all died. But she was treated at home with the ivermectin, high dose, and she survived. And there was no problem with the liver and the kidney. So I just want to bring that out in this meeting before I lose the chance. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, may I add my liver story?
Manol.
Pwede ba ako magdagdag ng liver story?
Sige, Doc.
Yeah, I also managed a patient in hospital who they did not want to give ivermectin. So they called me in. Sabi ng pasyente, Doc, pwede ba kayo na lang doktor ko? So ang ginawa ng ibang doktor, nag-sign out. And when the reason pala doon, ayaw niya magpabigay ng remdesivir. Kasi raw, ang taas ng liver enzymes niya. It was 800 ang liver enzymes niya. So I said, no, ivermectin does not cause that harm. Let's give ivermectin now kasi I think it's one of the safest drugs in the world. So I gave ivermectin. I think I gave 5 tablets a day. And then when we repeated the blood test, bumaba yung liver enzymes niya, naging 600. So now tell me, from 800 naging 600 on ivermectin, I think that's not because it causes liver toxicity. In fact, the patient survived, nag-improve. So I think it was partly thanks to ivermectin and also because we don't believe in rumors. Minsan they just mention na tumaas ang liver enzymes because of ivermectin, when we know for a fact that COVID-19 itself causes liver enzymes to elevate. Kaya wag na mo tayong naninira naman yung iba without evidence.
Since when have they ever brought this evidence? No. Manolo, yes, you're finally back with us. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Fantastic company here tonight. Thank you all the doctors for here listening to us, Dr. Landrito and Dr. Iggy. I haven't seen Dr. Iggy in such a long time. Good to see you, Doc. And anyway, I'll just give you some quick updates. Our work in Sultan Kudarat can't go any better. Can't go any better. The rates are coming down. They have a few cases still coming on, but people are now taking it. So Sultan Kudarat is the example for the whole Philippines. Please tell everybody. That's number 1. Number 2, we have news of fake ivermectin. Okay, so everybody listening to us, please make sure to get bona fide ivermectin. Our group IPK came out with an assay. We tested some brands. Please, if it's not there, if it's not approved on that list, please do not take it. People can die if they take a fake ivermectin, and of course they're going to blame us for ivermectin's failure. So please, we will distribute the chart again on the CDC page and on the websites. Please do not take any ivermectin that doesn't come from Dr. Landrito or all of the drugs put on that thing, because we cannot risk it. They're going to blame us. The enemy is going to blame us. We're now testing some new products that are out in the market. We think that the amount of ivermectin in them is very small. And therefore, if it is very small, everybody who takes it will be automatically underdosing. Meaning, they're going to get sick, or if they get sick, they will not get well, and they will blame ivermectin. So please, everybody, keep this in mind. Do not take any drug that's not on that list, please. Some good news. One of our municipal doctors in one of the provinces has gotten very sick. As in, he's the one treating the people, and he got really sick. He started with low dose ivermectin, and after 3 days, the fever came back. So we had to bring up the dosage. So be careful, everybody. These new strains are bad. So we are learning, as Dr. Landrito said, it is better to start with a high dose and then taper down. Okay, this virus is you know, maninira sa likod. You know, when you're not looking, he'll stab you. So it's a backstabber. Be very careful, please. Huh? So make sure you have a good, you know, a doctor behind you, you know, administering and watching over you. Some bad news now. The CDCP, Catholic Bishops Association of the Philippines, is pushing for everybody to get vaccinated. So they had a very important meeting this morning, a big webinar with the, you know, all of them telling everybody that it is an act of charity to get vaccinated. So please, this is what we're up against. Okay, so no, it's funny, you're laughing there, but this is the bad news. So incredible. We just have to continue with our work. So now the good thing is, because of Dr. Landrito and all of the other fantastic doctors, many of the religious now believe in ivermectin. So while they cannot defy orders, they know it works. So we have a group of people praying for us. Now, of course, not everybody here is a believer, but if you're a believer, please pray. Please join the prayers, because this is an important fight. That's on the political front. Now, on what's happening with the government, as you very well know, we met with the people from Batangas. We were able to talk to the governor in Batangas. We were able to talk to the provincial health officer. Everybody was excited about ivermectin, etc. But looks like they're getting a lot of pressure from upstairs. They have not yet begun distributing it the home care kits. We've sent them quite a bit of ivermectin, but as far as we know, they have not started. So what we need, listen to everybody listening to us out there, please, if you know of any municipal health officer or any city health official, and they are fence sitters. We have just prepared an approach to these doctors. Now we will post it. It's quite an interesting approach. It was made by one of our group members, so I will post it so for everybody to take into account. Instead of blaming the doctors, what we need them to do is we need them to test at least one case. That's all we need. If we're able to get one of these fence-sitting doctors to try ivermectin in just one case, and they will see for themselves that it works, that's what we need. I have also some other good news, but I prefer not to talk about it until I can concrete it. But it's excellent news. We're talking about trying to create independent volunteer groups all over the Philippines to distribute home care kits with ivermectin. So we're going to need a lot of ivermectin, good bona fide ivermectin from all of us. That's the direction we're trying to go for. So let's hope people listen to us, and let's hope we find those volunteers because we're talking of, again, brave Filipinos who are thinking about their fellow men. And I can only say thank you to everybody here. Thank you to all our pioneering doctors. What more can I say? Thank you, everybody.
Okay, wonderful. From Manuel.
Sir Manolo, can you give us an idea what happened in Sultan Kudarat?
Okay, go ahead. I'll brief you. I'm just talking of my numbers in the top of my head. Okay, IPK has been making Zooms talking to people just like the CDCP. We've had small groups here and there. We spoke to the field health, etc. And we decided one day that we had to reach the municipal health officers. Why? Because we went to a town in Lanao del Norte called Lala. Okay, Lala had 12 dead, and so we were able to talk to the mayor. The mayor came to us asking for help. So what we did was we sat with them. We conducted a Zoom. The mayor was able to assemble a group of volunteers to monitor the sick. So we sent them oximeters, we sent them ivermectin, and they went about, at that time when we started in Lala, they had 84 persons who were sick, 84 households who were sick. So we gave them ivermectin. All 84 people in in Lala were treated with ivermectin, and some of the people in those households were also given ivermectin for prophylaxis. Okay, so what happened here was after 3.5 weeks, we had 0 COVID cases. Everybody was well, and there were no new infections. The news was so overwhelming. We said we need to speak to the governor of Lanao del Norte. The mayor tried to arrange a meeting for us with the governor of Lanao del Norte, but of course we did not get an appointment. They did not want to see us, so that we didn't get to see them. But that was the basis that we knew, that made us know already after Santa Teresita, because in Santa Teresita, again with Dr. Landrito, who was there also, we were able to do something similar. In Santa Teresita and Batangas, there were 43 people sick, same thing. 3 weeks later, gone, no more COVID. So because of this, in one of our meetings, some municipal health officer came to us and said, "Look, we have a problem here in Sultan Kudarat. We have 3 towns that are really badly hit. There were 400 cases just in those 3 towns total, about 400. So we organized a Zoom. We got the municipal health officers from those towns, and we invited other doctors from Sultan Kudarat, including their provincial health officer, who listened to us. Of course, the provincial health officer it was the first time that he had heard about ivermectin. But we went ahead and we explained to them what was the dosing, how to treat, etc. And in that meeting, we also had some of the health workers, the staff of these municipal health officers. So when we started in Sultan Kudarat on September 28th, when we started giving ivermectin to the people, the doctors started distributing home care kits for the sick and monitoring the sick. From 4 weeks later, those 400 in those 3 major towns were down to just 22 cases, just in those 3 towns. We're now getting the information because we want to get the details of this, how many people exactly were treated. But of those 400, only 22 were sick. Now, on a province-wide, on a provincial level, the results are this. When we had the talk with the Sultan Kudarat people, we had several radio personalities listening to us. So what they have done is they have started talking about ivermectin on the radio. So everybody started hearing about ivermectin. 1 week after September 28th, Mercury Drug no longer had ivermectin. They were wiped out because people started buying from the drugstore. People started taking ivermectin. So from September 28th, the starting number of province-wide, the provincial number of active cases was 755 sick people. Okay, sick with COVID, confirmed COVID. And from September 28th up to November 5, which is the data that I have, the last data that I've been looking at, they have had an increase of 1,234 cases. So if you add the 755 cases active plus the 1,234 in that month, we would expect to have, on a provincial level, we would expect to have almost 2,000 active cases. Well, as of last Saturday, November 5, I think it was, or November 6, province-wide, the whole of Sultan Kudarat had only 35 active cases. Now, obviously, not all of that is due to ivermectin. Obviously, some people would have to get well, of course, that we know. But the use of ivermectin, which we now believe is pretty common in Sultan Kudarat, has brought down those figures. So this is the information that we need to explain to people. So please look it up. We need more Sultan Kudarats in the Philippines. So please, everybody, tell everybody about this. And they can, and all the unbelieving doctors can say whatever they want to say. I'll just to end, if I may just add, we are all quack doctors, all of us, except for the real doctors. But the rest of us are quack doctors. But as quack doctors, we know that if there's something wrong with my stomach, if I have something wrong with my stomach, the first thing I do is get some baking soda, put a bit of water. I put baking soda in a little bit of water and I drink it. if it just so happens that I have an acidic stomach, after 10 minutes, I feel fantastic. This is the same thing. Ivermectin works for COVID. We don't need to make a placebo-controlled, double-blind trial to determine it works. It works. And all we need to do is like Dr. Landrito started when he started testing it. It works. And this is the message we have to tell all our unbelieving doctor friends. It works. So please, everybody, tell them the story of Sultan Kudarat. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manolo.
Okay.
Thank
Which is
you.
good. And remember, everybody, he's coming from Spain. He's doing all of this from Spain. It's so we need more of Manolo. Now, final question na po tayo. We're already going over time. Pwede magtanong, mga doc. Vaccinated ba mga doktor ng CDC Philippines? Doc Allan, Doc Iggy, Doc Romy, Doc Homer, Doc
Yeah,
Jay.
ako muna. I
Yes,
would
sir.
to set the tone.
Wait. These are all, sorry, pero data privacy po
Oo nga,
ito.
oo nga.
Yung nga sasabihin ko eh, nanahan mo lang ako eh.
You want to answer that? Go ahead.
No, kasi this is a public forum, so you cannot ask that question.
Okay.
You can ask us siguro privately, pero again, it's like asking me if I'm married or not.
Grabe.
Okay, next question.
Bakit di magsabi ng totoo?
What to do to feel and be better? My husband has been experiencing several adverse reactions since his second jab with AstraZeneca. Arthritis like neck pain, rashes, sensitivity to loud sounds, and frequent feeling of lightheadedness. He has fatty liver. He's now on a detox diet. Thank you.
Yeah, what's the question kung ano, how to treat that?
How to treat? Kumbaga, detox sa AstraZeneca in this case, but is there a one treatment ma for all vaccines or iba-ibang ano?
I'm not sure if detox should be the right term kasi siyempre vaccine eh. So it changes something in you. So how to reverse the change? It's not necessarily detox. But certainly kung may fatty liver, this might be news to many patients and some doctors, but fatty liver is caused by sugars and alcohol. And pwedeng alcohol lang, pwedeng sugars lang. And that
Francis,
includes
narinig mo yun, Francis,
Yeah.
and that includes the holy fruit, the holy sweet
Wine.
fruit is included because it has fructose, very sweet. So don't think that just because it's a fruit, it's healthy. It can cause fatty liver. So be careful then. And I'm not saying bawal ang fruits, but just be careful. Certainly, mga ibang symptoms niya are because of an inflammation issue. Fatty liver itself can cause some kind of an inflammatory issue. I've observed this in my patients with arthritis. One of my first managements for arthritis is actually lowering their sugars and processed carbs. If you do that, that's a major decrease in inflammatory issues.
Okay, before we allow Dr. Allan to jump in, nagtatampo si Connie Valdez, sabi niya, ay naku, my question was not answered again. Ma'am Connie, can you please repost your question? Pipilitin po natin sagutin. Paki-repost. Kasi sa namakmak po yung dami-dami pong questions, hindi po namin makukover talaga lahat. So paki-repost na lang and we will make a point of answering your question. Doc Allan? Yes.
Yeah, as I've been mentioning, ivermectin is working against the adverse reactions. If it's adenovirus from AstraZeneca, it's creating a lot of spike protein. Ivermectin will snap that spike protein and it will be inactivated. Of course, unless there are other elements there like mercury or graphene or anything like that. But when it comes to the adverse reaction coming from the spike protein, ivermectin will do the job. So give, I would say, 4 capsules right away. Don't hesitate. No, it's not only, and let me take this opportunity. I've been giving very high doses of ivermectin. I can start with 5, 7, 9, 10, even go up to 14. People may get disoriented, may get hallucinated. Side effect, it wears off in 2 days, but then they get cured from COVID. And I believe also it will work against the adverse reactions if you give high enough doses.
May natanong, ito nabasa ko yung tanong ni Connie Valdez to
Okay.
Dr. Landrito. What is the dosage again when one unvaxxed is supposed to be vaxxed person? Is to a vaxxed person? Ano ba ito?
Kumbaga,
What is the
yung
dosage
ano, yung
again?
para hindi ba pag na-expose kayo or
When
expect you
is
to be
one
exposed to a
exposed? Yeah.
vaccinated person,
Yeah.
ano pong protection siguro?
Correct.
Doc Alan?
Shouldn't matter, I think. Shouldn't matter.
Kasi may
Just-
nabanggit kanina si
just-
Doc Alan na parang prophylactic dose for Doc Alan, you wanna answer that?
You know how I do it? I take, I even double it, 2 capsules every 3 days. If ever I get some symptoms, for example, I go to public place, I feel some phlegm or anything like that, I take 4 capsules. That's how to do it. Because I've been seeing a lot of people, even doctors, taking it daily for extended period of time. We're not getting all the imaginary things they were saying as overdosing and all that. And what I've been telling my patients, I'm hearing a lot of cases. I do Zoom meetings twice a week. We will err more on underdosing than overdosing. If we give very high enough dose, they may get disoriented. That's the worst that can happen, or get hallucinations. We don't have to reach that, but if we get into that point, we will be assured that even the COVID will be cured. We'll get good treatment. So we're getting experience not only for prophylaxis, for early treatment as well as late treatment using ivermectin. And of course, other therapeutics.
Sige, Francis.
May I just add something very quickly to what Dr.
Yes.
just heard from Dr. Lee. Same thing with our group, no? Our group, which is treating a lot of the people, everybody who's vaxxed, we give them ivermectin, and like Dr. Landrito was saying, slightly higher doses, no? What we're seeing also, if you people who are reading, a lot. I remember reading sometime not too long ago an article that explained how ivermectin could help the people who are vaxxed. The reason for this is what Dr. Iggy was explaining earlier about how the mechanism of action of ivermectin works. It's been demonstrated in computer modeling how the ivermectin latches on not just to the spike of the protein, but also to the ACE receptor in their cells. So because of this, if you've been vaxxed with one of these spike protein vaccines, then if you take enough ivermectin to cover it, then you are in effect not allowing the spike proteins of the vaccines to mess up with your system. So it's like Dr. Landrito just explained, you are in effect deactivating it. Now the question is, what we don't know is for how long, because ivermectin has a certain amount of time that it works, while the vaccine in you is going to, it's on forever. So we don't know how the production goes on. So maybe we may have to take, people who are vaccinated may have to take ivermectin for long periods of time, because we don't know for how long those vaccines are going to be effective. In other words, if the vaccine in you is manufacturing spike proteins continually, we're going to need to take ivermectin continually, especially if it's damaging to us. So the question now is this: precisely the medicine that the vaccine makers do not want us to use may become the most important medicine in the future for people who are vaccinated. The ivermectin may actually be the only way for vaccinated persons to have healthy lives. That's a question that I pass on to you, doctors, to think about, because this is my analysis without being a doctor. I'm thinking of it like from the mechanical point of view.
Okay, so we
Thanks.
can tackle that another time because we're running out of time.
Another thing, Mari, also.
Yep.
In my group, it's while I'm in Spain, the rest of the group is in the Philippines, so we're doing the work in the Philippines. If without the doctors in our team, we could not do anything. It's the doctors and the volunteers with us. Huh? Thank you very much.
Sige, thanks, Manolo. Next question: if one gets infected with COVID, is there a need to take prophylaxis of ivermectin pa rin since we have antibodies na? Doc, mga doc?
I tend to advise them that they probably don't need to take ivermectin or vaccination. Just stay healthy. Just be yung mga ginagawa natin to boost our immune system. I
Alright,
have a
next.
tendency to do that because siyempre kung nagkasakit na, I would be hypocritical to say na yung vaccine wag na, pero yung ivermectin okay.
Follow-up question dun is, oops, nawala ako. Teka. The follow-up question is, what specific antibodies test po ang kailangan?
Banggit na natin kanina, that's the
Quantitative or neutralizing?
neutralizing antibody test or
CPAS.
CPAS. Yeah.
Charlie Papa Alpha Sierra. I think that's Charlie hyphen Papa Alpha Sierra. C
Available
hyphen
sa
PAS.
mga labs.
Sa clinic
I
din ni
think
Doc
it was
Homer.
High Precision that was advertising it.
Right. Tanong ni Joseph Hart Mary Calaranan, can you please post here the unvaccinated CDC PH doctors?
Bawal nga po, bawal
Hindi
nga
pwede.
po.
Ito talagang ang dami naghahanap ha. I'm looking for a pulmonologist doctor. Kaya niya tinatanong kasi anti-vax ang gusto niya. I think he means anti-COVID vaccine na pulmonologist. Thank you so much. God bless all CDC PH
Hindi pa yata pinapanganak.
Oo nga eh. Ang hirap maghanap ng pulmonologist na na pro-ivermectin. Bakit
Meron
kaya?
yung neutral pero yung anti-vax I don't.
Kaya meron ako.
Ayan.
May classmate ako na dating head ng pulmo department of the Lung Center of the Philippines, and he is pro-ivermectin.
Yun.
Pero anti-vax
hanapin niyo po si Dr. Jade para malaman niyo po kung sino. I-message
Okay.
niyo.
Anti-vax po sir? Anti-vax din?
Anti-COVID vax or Doc Jade?
Anti-vax. Nagkaroon kasi siya ng COVID. Way back na mga early 20s pa. March yata yun or May 2020. And he developed COVID. He was admitted at lung center. He got well. Tapos he was maintaining on ivermectin. And then nagkaroon hindi siya nagpa-vaccinate. So he's the only pulmonologist I know who is pro-ivermectin.
Meron palang isa.
And he attends some of our
Buhay po siya.
Okay.
By the way, hindi pala kami anti-vax.
Yes. That's why I keep saying anti-COVID vax. Ano po? Okay, sir, pakisagot po. Bigla po kasi ako natakot. Nako, paano po mag-detox from anti-pneumonia vaccine, please? Si Doc Romy ba? Doc Allan sumagot dito. Si Doc Allan, ano? Paano po mag-detox from anti-pneumonia vaccine? Doc Allan?
No, there's no detox. No detox.
No, with anti-pneumonia, you don't have to worry kasi it's been there for so many years. There's no, really reported adverse reactions or people dying from it. No, there were reports it getting cross reactions with giving it while there is this pandemic, but not alone by itself. It doesn't have that record of adverse reactions and deaths.
Kung nagpabakuna kung nagpa-pneumonia vaccine na po siya at okay naman siya, she's fine. Tama po ba?
Yeah, she's fine. She's okay.
Fine.
So don't worry. Pero if you're saying there's a potential risk of harm to your immune system if you take it. Paano ba 'yon?
Yeah, binanggit ni Dr. Kiano.
Ayun.
It's risky during the pandemic.
Kasi it's not the right time din eh. Kasi for example, if the hospitals are full and you get a reaction from that particular vaccine, where do you go?
Okay. Question po, possible carrier din pa din po ba? Question po, possible carrier pa din po, di ba, ang mga vaxxed? Possible carrier pa din po, this is the viral shedding question.
Yes. I think that has been already a fact mentioned already by the CDC, US CDC, that you can still transmit the virus even if you're already vaccinated. The claim is still there that I think should still require some published proof that it really lessens the symptoms. So parang ang carrier state yun eh. You have less symptoms, but you are contagious. That is the worst kind of carrier state.
Okay.
Kung walang symptoms, naglalakad kasama natin.
Okay, may nag-comment. Nawala ko lang yung pangalan niya. Doc Landrito, if you need volunteers to distribute home care kits in the sitios in the south.
Yeah, there's this phenomenon called virus boosting phenomenon. It's established in the veterinary world. If you vaccinate herds like chickens, no, and they get exposed. You know, the virus is just in the air. If you apply it to human populations, the virus is just in the air. We are breathing the virus, although not in the concentration that we cause the disease. But then, if people are vaccinated and they're breathing this virus, they will tend to produce mutants or variants of this, and they'll be shedding hot strains. You know, it's not only alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and all that. There are already 4,000 variants. So the moment they vaccinate people, these vaccinated will start producing a lot of hot strains. That's why it has been observed that people unvaxxed getting in contact with vaccinated people, they get COVID. That's the reason. So they are shedding actually.
Okay. Tanong ni Jeff, where can we find the list of approved ivermectin brands that were tested? Sa alam ko, wala ang CDC PH. Manolo, where is your list posted? On your Facebook?
Yeah, we'll post it and then we'll send it to you so that you can post it on the CDC PH.
All right. But is it already on your Facebook?
I think it is, but I'm not sure. But I'll double check as soon as
Okay,
I'm
if
done.
ever
We'll-
IPK, right?
Yeah, IPK. I just type on Facebook Messenger IPK. It's Ivermectin para sa kapwa. You take a look. Just put IPK and you'll find it. It's there. And we'll
Okay.
send you the copy so that you can also post it.
Thank
These
you.
are the brands that we have tested so far. Please do not take any other brand that's not there, and because we don't know where it's coming from. So
All right. Sige.
be
Doc Allan,
very careful, please.
yeah, Doc Allan is a message for you. If you need volunteers to distribute home care kits in the sitios in the south, I will sign up. It's the least I can do to thank you and CDCPH for your selfless and courageous service. Please organize a website, not on Facebook, to give your work a measure of protection against evildoers. Meron pa mga ano dito para kay Doc Allan.
May question, interested ako sagutin,
Yes, Doc.
Mari. Our daughter has natural immunity as shown positive antibody test results. How can we use this as a basis for an appeal to refuse vaccination requirement in her university? First answer to that is say that it's not required by law for schools to as a requirement. There is no such thing.
Ang IATF rules po are not law. Tama po ba, Doc?
Yeah. So that's the first answer to that. Sure, you can introduce that factor, yung natural immunity. But doon pala talo na dapat sila kasi you cannot force you based on that you cannot enroll in that university because you're not vaccinated. I think that's clearly stated already.
All right. Okay.
May
So,
comment po si Elia Abella. Sabi niya, can you
Abela.
please ask Abela, can you please ask the audience to turn on their cameras and
Oo nga.
wave? Meron tayong group shot.
So
Okay.
taking
Oo, ano po, turn on all your videos tapos magwa-wave tayo. Gagamitin po
Tayo.
natin ito sa ating summit.
Yeah.
Ellie, ang nakikita ko, hindi ko nakikita yung lahat. Parang yung background natin is
Alin
Oo,
po?
baka,
May
I
style
cannot
si
see
Elia.
yan, thank you
Ayan,
po.
it's
Wait,
on-
wait po,
yan,
sabay-sabay
it's
po
on-
tayo mag-wave ha. Sabay-sabay po. Okay, is everybody ready? Okay,
Yes.
Elia, you ready to shoot it?
Yeah, we're recording it naman so we will
Okay.
just splice
Okay,
it.
sige.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, screen 1 ba? Paano ba to? Screen 1, screen 2, etc.?
Yeah,
Pwede
so keep
mag-laugh.
waving. Keep
Pwede
waving.
Keep waving
Smile.
po.
Yeah,
Exercise na rin natin
ang
to.
dami. Galing. Keep waving. There are 10 pages. Keep waving po.
Sige
Keep
po, wag po
waving.
tayo mapagod. Change hands kung pagod na yung isang kamay. Okay.
Yan.
Very good for your circulation.
okay. Dapat may bagong pangalan na to di ba? The Waving Critical Thinkers of the Philippines.
Yan. This is so nice. So
Pwede mo
nice.
nang
Thank
i-report kay
you.
Doc Salbanya na nagka-wave sa
Oh,
CDC.
meron pang Korean heart. Oh, di ba? Okay.
Yan.
Okay.
Thank you,
Alright.
everyone.
Sarang
Okay na,
yan.
Ellie? Okay
Okay
na?
na, yeah. Thank you so
Okay.
much, everyone. Thanks, Francis.
Mag-bye raw yung mga doktor o mga docs, di ba, Mari?
Yes,
Last
final
word
words.
of bye, yung mga doktor.
Wala na po tayong panahon. Sorry po. We're already
mauna na
overtime.
ako.
Sige po.
Youngest, beauty before age.
Pinakamaaga matulog, Doc Iggy.
Okay, first of all, if the vaccine requires your consent, I would be extra careful if you're pregnant, if you are very young and healthy. Certainly, it cannot be mandated. There's no law yet to do that. And I would ask for more data from our government on regards the adverse events and deaths related to the vaccine. And I hope they are honest about it. When it comes to ivermectin, do not believe the rumors that ivermectin is dangerous to your liver. In fact, the vaccines, remdesivir, are more dangerous to your liver, and yet you want it done. And ivermectin is far safer than those drugs. The last one is, I think, issues of yung herd immunity. You've heard the concepts of nabanggit namin po. Herd immunity is about your immune health. So do everything in your capacity to make yourself healthy. Vitamin D, exercise, avoid sugars and processed carbs. And then, of course, there's the early treatment. Ivermectin is still there. Yes, keep on reading because there are new things coming around, new information. Don't rely on what the mainstream media or just the censors. We really have to be critical minded and really look deeper into things. Let's find a reason why this is being done. There is always a reason behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Iggy. Doc Jade?
Me. Yes.
Sige, nauna po si Doc Allan. Sige po, Doc Allan.
Ako na? Sige.
Sige po.
The pandemic is near its end, but we don't know if it will go up again. The case. We don't know what factor may happen, but hopefully it's ending. The pandemic is concluding, but right now we can still save a lot of people by giving them ivermectin. And so let's continue the campaign on giving ivermectin. It's so timely that I was getting information. Old studies on ivermectin that it works against breast cancer, ovarian, cervical, esophageal, renal, glioma, nasopharyngeal, gastric, liver, colon, leukemia, and bladder cancers. So ivermectin is here to stay. After the pandemic, it will be with that. I'm hearing a lot of, if there's really a magic, the magic of ivermectin is there. Some people having toothache and their toothache disappears when they take ivermectin. Something like that, no? And that person who gave me, there were two persons already who's saying it's working against toothache. So there are so many other things that, ivermectin is showing how wonderful drug it really is. But suffice to say, it's working against COVID. You go very high doses, it will still be safe, no? The highest one that was on record took 1,200. He was committing suicide in Africa years back, and he got comatose. Then after that, he recovered and he's normal after that. No? I've been giving very high doses, and it's really working against COVID. And now we are seeing it's working against adverse reactions of the vaccines. So my CPR is coming out before the end of this month. Is coming out. I hope I can get in touch with Manolo here. We'll go to different places to dole out a lot of ivermectin to poor people. No? And yeah.
So wakas, Doc,
nice
tagal, ano? Ilang buwan na yan? Ilang buwan na yan? March
yeah, we waited for the stability test that was to be taken out from the machine on last November 9, so that we get a 1-year stability test, so we can have an expiry date of 1 year from the manufacturing date. That's why we have to wait this long. And that's the last requirement that we have to submit. Hopefully we get our CPR.
Anong brand? Anong pangalan ng
Dr. Landrito's Ivermectin.
Okay, Dr. Landrito's Ivermectin. Okay. Last words, Dr. Jade.
First of all, I'd like to thank Manolo. You have inspired me. you know what? Because with Dr. Jerry Kalingasan, I was filled with hope that somehow public health, a provincial health officer can jumpstart the rolling out of ivermectin in the local governments. But with his appointment as regional health officer, I was disappointed because then I realized that this is the move of the DOH to stop him from rolling out ivermectin. He had a good chance to prove himself as a benevolent public health official by rolling out ivermectin, by promoting it to his municipal health officers. Remember, Dr. Homerlin, we did a Zoom meeting with his municipal health officers together with his provincial health officer mate, si Dr. Zaita from Batangas. And then now, when I invited him, I call him, he doesn't answer anymore. So I really expected that he would shy away from being the provincial health officer he was before, because now he is with DOH, and sad to say, he is now influenced by the DOH. However, with the Sultan Kudarat experience, I am more inspired to talk with other local government health officers, no, to talk to them about ivermectin and the early treatment for COVID. And with this, I would like to start with those in the Bicol region, because I'm from the Bicol region, and I'd like to start talking with some of my friends there who are doctors, and some of them might be municipal mayors who have municipal health officers working with them.
Doc Jade,
So
let
that's
me just interrupt.
Thank
Doc
you.
Jade, I just interrupted Doc Jade. No?
Yeah.
Let's not just look at doctors. We have to find nurses. We have to find midwives. So everybody here listening to us, don't just think that it's just the doctors. We need the workers, the soldiers. And those soldiers are nurses, midwives. Not everybody will believe in ivermectin, but some of them will have heard about ivermectin, and they will try it. And they have saved some people, because we're talking about, like Dr. Landrito was saying, we're talking about ending this pandemic for good. We're not talking here of, it's a passing thing. No, these vaccines are designed, so that the pandemic continues. For a very simple reason, Dr. Romy Quijano has explained this time and time again. They do not cut the transmission of the disease because they are not sterilizing vaccines. And so if these are not sterilizing vaccines, they cannot even be considered vaccines.
Right.
So please, the only thing that can stop the transmission of COVID is ivermectin. This is what stops the transmission. Why? Because once you start taking ivermectin and you're sick, your viral load drops. So your capacity to transmit it to somebody else drops. So how can you become contagious? Simple as that. And any doctor here can tell us this. This is basic. This is one of the first things that before becoming an engineer, I wanted to be a dentist. And I remember studying this in zoology. So please, if you're taking ivermectin and you're taking a high enough dose, the chances of you being able to transmit the virus to somebody else is very low.
All right. Thank you, Doc J. Thank you, Manolo. And now, Dr. Romy Quijano.
Maraming salamat sa lahat na nakikinig. Ulitin ko ulit yung dati ko nang sinabi. I think our most urgent task now is to organize and try as much as possible to stop the mass vaccinations, the mandatory mass vaccinations, especially among children, because the adverse effects, once they have injected these COVID vaccines, these existing COVID vaccines, especially to the children, many of the adverse effects would be permanent and will be seen years from now. And especially for children, they have more years ahead of them.
Yes.
And many of this will be in the form of, because of dysfunction of the immune system, a lot of which will be manifested as autoimmune diseases. And we have seen this already from the previous vaccine. Just look at the phenomenon in the US. The more they vaccinated the children, saying that it will improve the children, just the opposite have happened. The worst, the worst situation of children is now in the United States with the most vaccinations that have been done. And we should expect a worse result with these COVID vaccines. So please let us try and stop this mass vaccination, especially among children. The organized groups, CDCPH and the others, like CDCPH, should attempt to unite and organize themselves and do everything that they can do to stop these forced vaccinations. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat, Doc Romy. Doc Pogi, Doc Homer. Doc Homer, final words po. Francis, gusto mo
Sorry.
Ayan. Okay.
Sorry, so.
Doc
Thank you,
Pogi ka ba
everyone.
sumagot, Doc?
What?
Sumagot ka nung sinabi ko, Doc Pogi.
sorry. So thank you once again. Lumampas na naman kami. Sorry.
Oo.
Anyway, just to again reiterate, no. So what have been said today is with regards to the ivermectin and the vaccines. We do know that we do still have some data to show its safety and efficacy. But I think a lot of people kasi medyo natatakot because of what's happening on December 1. But don't worry. I mean, there are people who are also kumbaga hindi rin sila agree dun. It's just that kala lang natin isolated tayo, but we are not. There is a silent majority. I'm sure there's a silent majority. Ayaw lang talaga magsalita, but there's a silent majority who really is not is in favor of any mandatory vaccination or mandatory anything. So you just keep faith. CDCPH as a group is also will try to do whatever we can with regards to this issue, no. And then, of course, lastly, again, we want to reiterate our COVID summit on the 25th of November at Vivere, or you can join us online. And we will also have a dinner fundraising on the 24th of November. This is the night before the summit, also at Vivere. So inviting everyone to come and listen and enjoy. Maybe it's going to be my first conference again after 2 years. So I'm sure a lot of people are also very happy to see other people, not just on Zoom. Thank you.
All right, salamat, Doc.
Hey.
Francis, all yours.
Okay,
Si
good night
Ellie
po,
muna.
maraming salamat po.
Teka, beauty before age. Si Ellie muna.
Ellie muna.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your support. We'll see you again next week, and we hope that you'll attend the COVID Summit. And do you, Francis?
Okay, maraming salamat po sa pakikinig at sa mga doktor natin, mga magagaling. At dito po kayo sa kanila makinig. Our thanks and prayers to you. Huwag pong magpabakuna kaagad-agad. At kung kailangan magpabakuna, sabi ni Doc Iggy, resist it. Huwag magpabakuna ng experimental vaccine dahil it can have a lot of adverse effects. Mari.
All right. Maraming salamat po. This is the QR code po. If you're not yet part of our Flat in the Fear Viber group, please focus your device's camera on our QR code, and it will send you directly to our Flat in the Fear Viber group. Sorry po sa mga tanong na hindi po namin nasagot. Talagang kulang po ang 2 oras at almost 3 hours na naman po tayo. But again, thank you very, very much to all of our doctors, resource persons. Thank you to IPK, IBMCC, Healthcare Philippines. Thank you, everybody, for what you're doing. We'll see you next week. Until then, God bless you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.